the ashes. The spirits light up the night.
Now, we're live from the Untold Radio Network. It's Untold Radio AM with Monster Quest producer, host Doug Hajicek, and co-host Jeff Perrella Jr. Untold Radio AM is going live right now.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Doug.
Hello, everybody in chat. Welcome to Untold Radio AM.
Welcome.
A big hello to all the people in chat, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of people.
I love it.
That's just a crazy day. I got a coat on because I did a shoot, laid all my video gear over my one vent in my studio. So it's 2 foot of gear on top of the heat vent.
So you're freezing?
It's like 20 below.
Oh, geez.
It's probably like...
For everyone else, it is cold in Minnesota this week. Holy smokes. We've had I think we've been below zero every day, haven't we? It's been cold here.
Oh, yeah, way below zero. And a lot of pipes are breaking. A lot of friends are calling me. Their pipes are breaking in their basement. Sinks. My pipes blew up in my bathroom.
Oh, no.
They froze and blew. But luckily, I was up there when it happened. So
Boy, no kidding. That could be a mess. Holy cow. That's no fun.
Today, I ordered new pipes and faucets. So
no fun.
No, I know. I got a mess to clean up, too. It's just like, gosh, dang. So anyway, I have a coat. Sorry about that. Tonight we have a kind of a cool show, a little different.
Yeah.
We have Val Zavala on tonight from Michigan. Okay, from the the Bigfoot Michigan Reports and Data website. Gumshoe Guy, some people know him by.
Gumshoe Guy, yep.
Yeah. But we're going to do a really unique scientific breakdown on I hate to call it a theory, but it's actually a bunch of theories that have kind of come together really nice. And we're going to talk about a possible compound, a molecular compound that may be completely different in any other primate hair that could be in Bigfoot hair. I'm going to explain as we go on tonight. And should be fascinating. It's going to be kind of a big segment. But you're going to have to wait for the end because we're going to reverse engineer this. And I think a lot of you will agree that there is a very good chance. I'm going to make a prediction that I'm going to bet that it will show up in Bigfoot hair.
Interesting.
This chemical compound, which will help identify it right in the future. Gives us one more identifier. Plus, it will shed light on how they live, and you'll find out why.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Really interesting. It has nothing to do with camouflage either, people. It's nothing to do with that. That's a whole nother ballgame.
Speaking of tech, I spent, about 3 hours today talking to Grok 3. That's the newest AI.
Right, it's like a chat. You just really chat with it.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's like talking to a person. It's unbelievable and it's so good. Well, here's the fun thing. I started out asking it what it thinks is the probability of Bigfoot being real.
Right.
It started out at 1% to 2%, and I kept talking to it and just using my thinking about it. And by the time we ended the conversation, it was up to 60% probability just based on talking to me. I convinced it that it was 60% probability just based on.
You know what we can do? So let's plan on a future show. It might even be next week. We can do it live.
Sure.
And we can have people ask it questions live.
It's amazing.
So
it is amazing.
All right. Well, let's just hang on, Jeff. Just hang on.
Yeah.
Don't get too crazy on it.
I'm just saying, man. Check it out. Check it out when you're free time. It's cool, man.
No, I know. Okay. So last night had another weird. It's just been everything's been crazy. So last night I was busy all day working. Yvette was busy working, so she ordered DoorDash. Mm-hmm. So DoorDash comes before I get home, right before I get home. But as I'm coming home, I see a strange man standing at the corner on my street. He's got a box next to him, kind of this weird red box. You got to remember, it's 22 below zero.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a scarf on or a face mask. And I'm like, kind of weird, like what? But he's right by a house. So I'm not like worried. I should have, probably should have stopped and said, you need help. But he was standing there and he was on his cell phone. So I figured he's waiting for a ride or so. I don't know. So I get home, sit down, unwrap my food to eat it. And all of a sudden there's a bunch of banging on the door. And I'm like, what? I look at the camera that shows the front door, and it's a police officer standing there. I've never seen a police officer this rigged up, man. I mean, it was like multiple guns everywhere and walkie-talkies and mace. And I mean, it was unbelievable. Like there's no room on this police officer. And I'm thinking, what the heck? I didn't speed home. I drove home really cautiously. I'm a real careful driver.
Yeah, you're not a speeder.
No, not at all. And so I thought, well, what the heck? So I've confirmed it's a police officer. I even look out the people thing, and I can see the cop car out there. And so I open the door, and she's like, "Did you just have DoorDash delivered here?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She says, "Well, the guy's car was stolen out of your driveway."
Oh my gosh.
He walked up to deliver the food. And while he was delivering the food and taking a photo, somebody was driving off with his car. The guy I saw at the end of the road was the DoorDash guy.
Wow.
Who was calling the police. As I remember, I said he was on his cell phone.
Yeah.
He apparently chased it down the road running after his car. And I'm like, God, that's crazy. So then I thought about it and I went, I'm wondering if organized certain people are not going to the DoorDash or to the restaurants and waiting for a DoorDash guy and then following them in this ice cold weather.
Yeah.
Thinking they're not going to shut their car off.
Right.
So they follow them to their delivery destination, steal their car.
That makes
Maybe
sense.
they're doing 5, 6 a night. That's kind of what I heard.
Oh, that's horrible. Because your neighborhood is not exactly a crime-ridden neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood.
But it was just shocking to us.
Oh, that's horrible.
So the police spent quite a bit of time in here going through all our videos.
Sure.
And of course, the videos were jammed.
Really?
Yeah, well, during the car thievery, they jammed the Wi-Fi.
Wow.
And that's kind of
that's organized. That's got to be something. Yeah, that's not some random guy walking on. It's hanging out in your neighborhood. That's organized. It has to be
highly organized. So anyway, so it's kind of a different week. And then today, my 2 daughters showed up, surprised me with my granddaughter I haven't seen in a little while, which was a great surprise. And I spent 2.5, 3 hours with them, and that was awesome.
That's fun. Your granddaughter's a cutie.
Oh God, she's speaking whole paragraphs now, telling stories. She's only 2. And like we gave her a hard-boiled egg and some fruit and stuff, and she dropped a little piece of egg on the floor. And she goes, oh. She goes, gets a paper towel, and she cleans it all up all on her own. She's just a doll.
She's a little sweetheart. She's just a sweetheart. She's so cute.
All right. Speaking of cold weather, let's get into the news.
News.
Untold radio news that can be a bit weird is right now.
All right. Well, the first thing you can throw up, photo 1, cold weather and water pipes can spell disaster for bookstores.
This is a knife to the heart for me, man.
This is what happens when a pipe breaks.
Oh.
This happened in Minneapolis. This has been going on all over in homes and stores. Yvette's place of work had their pipes burst. And of course, almost shut the place down and, flooded their basement. So, yeah, it's a problem. This is a problem. This was a Minneapolis bookstore that said it was catastrophic damage. Yeah, no lie. Caused by a burst water main. And that's not fun. Look at all those books.
There's not many of those used bookstores left, which is just sad. That's just sad to see.
No, you can't get these rare books back. So anyhow, sad.
Awful.
All right. And speaking of water, NASA rover apparently discovers liquid water ripples carved into Mars rock. And it could rewrite the red planet's history. So apparently there was some pretty deep water. But then when I read these articles, Jeff, I keep getting this deja vu. Like, didn't I hear this 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Didn't I hear it 10 years before that? And 10 years before that? But I keep, hearing about water, just like on the moon, water. Well, obviously. And the photo definitely looks like there was water there. You can see the sediment layers, kind of like we get sandstone layers, the karst. And yeah, I would say there was at one point water on the planet. There would be really cool though if they could drill down and hit fresh water. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Maybe
hopefully in 2 years there'll be a window to get there. We'll get some.
What are they thinking when they're planning going to Mars? But what are they thinking they're going to do for water? Have they discussed that?
I guess I haven't read about that. There is definitely water there. It's currently, I think, locked in the polar caps, but there might be water deep down. Who knows? I don't think anybody knows that yet.
Yeah.
But that there's going to be all kinds of stuff there. I think SpaceX is going to send everything they can up there in 2 years.
Yeah. So. It says here there were minute ridge-like structures that form along shores of lake beds. This means that it was exposed to liquid water.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point,
I don't think there's much doubt of that now. I mean, I think that's pretty accepted that at one time there was bodies of water there. Lots of evidence of it.
Jeff, when I was a kid, I was reading articles about water on Mars.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. I always wonder if this stuff's clickbait.
So when you were a kid, they probably still thought there was canals on Mars. So you're not.
Yes, I remember the canals. In fact, my sister had a book called The Canals on Mars.
Yeah.
And I remember stealing it from her because the cover was so cool.
Yeah.
Because, it showed two Martians and it showed this planet with all these canals. And I just thought, ooh, this is so cool.
What was the guy's name? Percival Lowell. Does that sound right? Percival Lowell was the guy who first started drawing them. Memory serves.
I don't know.
I can't remember. I could be way wrong. That's the name that pops into my head.
I'm not even sure how that came about, but but I'll tell you, I sure bought into it when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, in the early telescope views, they couldn't resolve. They just looked like lines, and they couldn't really resolve it any further. And and it was just assumed that they were canals because it didn't look like anything else that they could think of.
Yeah. There's the comment of the day. I wonder if they have Bigfoots on Mars, or did
Why not?
Yes, that's a good comment. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, anyhow. Okay, then we've got researchers unveil mosquito findings that could help fight against all these diseases that mosquitoes are spreading. So apparently it says researchers unveil findings that could help in the fight against rapidly spreading disease. No crap. Yeah. Tackling a critical global health challenge. Apparently, they've created a tool that could reduce the spread of vector-borne disease. I guess that's what you call some disease that flies around inside the body of a insect, right? A vector-borne disease.
I think. I don't know.
I made that up, Jeff. I have no idea.
Fair enough.
I don't know what spread of vector-borne diseases, but it claims that, the lives of over 1 million people each year are lost to these little bloodsuckers.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk more about bloodsuckers coming up. It's kind of going to be important, actually.
Do you get chewed up bad by mosquitoes? Everyone's chemistry is different.
Not as I've gotten older.
Oh, man, they love me for some reason. I attract them like crazy.
You have olive oil coursing through your veins. That's why.
My grandpa said they like that sweet Italian blood. I don't know, but man, they like my chemistry, man.
Everybody gets eaten by mosquitoes if they're bad, but generally, if there's me and somebody else in a room, they're the ones that are going to get bitten.
Yeah, it'll be me. It's some people they don't bother at all, but for whatever reason, my chemistry they drive me crazy. Yeah. And in Minnesota, there's plagues of mosquitoes.
Bad, yeah. Okay, so apparently they're so what they're doing is they're catching mosquitoes all over the globe, looking at their microbiomes, right? Mm-hmm. and they're checking out which bacteria are in each vector or area of the planet, and then they're trying to figure out what they're going to do to stop all these, reoccurring bacterias. And I'm thinking I kind of know what they're thinking. I don't even say, but I'm thinking they're going to infect the mosquitoes with some bacteria that fights the bacteria that's in the area.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Through various splicing of DNA.
I'm not sure that's a good idea.
What could ever go wrong?
Yeah. What could go wrong there?
Loading up bacteria and some man-made bacteria into a mosquito. Nothing.
That's a very good idea.
The next one I found really interesting. Apparently, there are these blowflies. That's a blowfly, and it puts on and makes a termite mask. This is actually the tail of a blowfly.
Oh, wow.
So it creates this termite mask to mimic termites.
Sure.
So it can live and infect these, it basically becomes a parasite, but has the termites actually wait on it, feed it, bring it food, blah, 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 because apparently it mimics the smell, the look, the armor, everything of a termite. So there you go. So all you got to do, Jeff, is put a mask on your butt. You can put a Dougie mask on your butt.
Put a dot on each cheek and go sneak into a termite mound. Sure.
Yeah, there you go. That's good.
Yeah. Why not?
Apparently they even have the fake eyes, which you can see there. Those are fake.
Maybe next year for Halloween I'll do that. I'll just say, hey, I'm a termite. I'm a blowfly.
Yes, it says most termites live several meters deep, and they have no visual perception. I didn't know that they were blind.
Yeah.
However, harvester termites come out at dusk to collect grass, and they have functional eyes, of course, and that's why these things disguise themselves as termites. So apparently, anyhow, the bottom line is it's a symbiotic relationship with insects. They're starting to uncover all these, and there's more of them.
There's lots of
other examples that I found of insects that invade other insects and kind of live together, basically, or one mimics the other one. It's quite interesting. We don't know a lot about what goes on underground in all these ant and termite mounds.
No,
it's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's an interesting read. It's just really, really long. But you got the idea. Just put 2 dots on your butt. You got it. Okay.
Next year's Halloween costume.
And boy, we had a lot of plane crashes, although we had one that if I would have been on board, I would have thought this is the end for sure.
Oh, man. That had to be terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, the Delta Airlines, I don't think this has ever happened. The thing, it looked like one of the wings hit a snowbank or some windblown snow, tore the wing off with the fuel in it. Caught on fire, exploded, but then slid out of the danger range. And this plane, the fuselage, got to give Delta credit for that. It held together, slid down the ice. People are hanging upside down. 18 people are hurt, but none critically. Nobody died.
Pretty amazing that nobody died. That had to be just horrifying. Then it comes to rest upside down, so everyone's hanging from their seatbelts upside down.
Vampires.
It's crazy.
It's definitely a first, but I just, all the people that were on there, God bless your soul. Lucky people. Lucky people. It wasn't their time. It kind of proves that, it's your time. It's your time. It wasn't their time.
Yeah.
All right. Then, while I'm mentioning things that fly, we have the Raytheon Ghost Eye, which perfectly tracks high-speed cruise missiles. And high-speed cruise missiles, as you know, travel really low. I actually helped develop the fin guards for the cruise missile.
Oh.
A while back.
Interesting.
Yeah, I designed them.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. They hug the ground.
All this was, I designed the fin guards so they could ship and store cruise missiles.
Wow. That's cool.
They're like razor thin.
Yeah.
So anyhow, long story short, this thing apparently can track them, shoot them down. First time ever that cruise missiles have been, because they're so low, it's hard. This is called the Ghost Eye, and apparently they did a live, test, and it worked. So
Yeah, conventional radar won't pick them up, especially if there's
Right.
if there's some some elevation changes, because they
Yep.
can. Yeah, the ground-based radar typically isn't going to see them.
Well, they've been around a long time because I'm trying to remember when I did that. God, I was like back in the
Oh,
early 80s.
60s for sure. I think maybe even the
Well,
60s for sure.
I
They started.
developed this guard for the fins sometime in the 80s, I think. Yeah, it was in the 80s for sure. Probably mid 80s. I don't know why. No, I think it was for a subcontractor that needed a design.
Sure.
You know how that goes. There's like a jillion. But anyhow, it was kind of a weird project. You don't get asked to do all the time.
No.
All right. And then once again, things that fly. We've got what they call the city killer asteroid. And could hit the moon now instead of a city or instead of the US.
Oh, I hadn't heard the moon part
Earth,
yet. That's interesting.
Yeah, now they're saying it's got a chance to hit the moon.
Wow.
I hope it doesn't, because that could be I wouldn't want a big chunk of the moon gone.
Yeah, that could cause, that could really.
Yeah, it could destroy its orbit.
Yeah. Boy, if it moved the orbit just a tiny, tiny, tiny amount, that would be catastrophic.
It could be catastrophic, yeah. So I'm kind of hoping it doesn't hit the moon.
Yeah.
But apparently, let's see.
3.1% I read. It's the highest ever.
Well, yeah, the last I checked, it was 1 in 43 chance of hitting our planet. And by the year 2032, and I don't understand how they don't even have the year figured out. That doesn't make sense. But it says there's a smaller chance that it might crash into the moon. Enough said. That is enough said on that. I wouldn't lose sleep over it.
No.
Probably be a nothing burger.
So that means that there's 97% chance that it's not going to hit us. So
yeah, that's a pretty
good odds.
Yeah, pretty good odds. Pay your bills, people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what you want to do next. Should we? let's do some clips. We haven't done clips in a few weeks.
Sure. Here we go.
Well, okay. All right, clip 1. Sound is good. So this is basically dogs are very, very human, right? I figure about a 6-year-old human.
Yeah.
You got to watch this. This dog is amazing. Go ahead and play it.
June. What do you have? What do you have? June.
Love the guilt.
What do you have?
She knows.
Oh,
That
wait.
dog knows.
What do you have? What did you bring in from outside, huh? Is it a stick? Yes, it is. Yes, it is a stick. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That's
So
awesome.
The dog obviously knew that was a stick in its mouth. All right.
That's cool.
Clip 2, the sound is good. This is kind of a fun parlor trick, and I recommend everybody do it. So let's do this. And it's a parlor trick, but it's fun.
This is going to blow your mind. Point to any one of these Christmas tree decorations. It's a free choice. Now keep your finger there and move to the nearest blue Christmas tree decoration, the nearest blue. Now move your finger to the nearest green Christmas decoration. Make sure it's the closest one. Okay, and finally move your finger to the nearest red Christmas tree decoration. All right, could have started anywhere, free choice, but I knew you would end up here. If that worked, you got to hit like, you got to hit follow, and you got to have a very Merry Christmas.
That's pretty cool.
Did I get it right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did it. I did it. It nailed it.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously just a very simple little mathematical trick. I used to do something similar to that with playing cards, but I don't remember.
Yeah, it's like forcing a card.
Yeah, forcing a card. Yeah, my dad took advantage of me on every magic trick there ever was. God, I'm such a sucker. Okay, the sound is good. This is more weird UAPs. Real or fake, I have no idea, but It seems to pass, the red flag laws. So go ahead and play it.
This is Ashtar Spaceship News. This recording was from a person in New Jersey at 2 a.m. in the morning getting out of work. Now things are getting even weirder. What do you think this is? What's going on, folks?
It's interesting. It's been many objects similar to that recorded. It's kind of I don't know, it's kind of what shape would you call that, Jeff?
You know what? I apologize. You
weren't even watching.
Everyone else is watching. I'm getting the next clip queued up.
Oh my God. Okay.
Is that a fail?
What do you people think? What do you guys think?
That's a fail on my part. Sorry.
That's a fail. Oh my God. My co-host failed.
Failure. I'm getting the next clip ready, man.
You didn't see it. No wonder you don't even see UFOs when they're playing on the screen. No wonder you've never seen one, Jeff.
I'm trying to keep the show. I'm trying to get the clips lined up, keep the show moving smooth.
Any UFO. He's gonna have one hanging over his head. Yeah, bird shaped. There you go. That's a good description. Greg says bird shaped. Has kind of tentacles. It's a radioactive Jersey flying machine. It's a bionic bird from Kenny. There we go. All right. Let's see. Where are we at, Jeff?
Clip 4. And you said no audio on this one.
No sound. Okay.
See, I had it already because I wasn't looking because I was getting it all ready for you.
This is a look at Pluto. That's 4.6 billion miles away, I guess. And is this real or is this some simulation NASA throws out? I don't know.
I don't know that we've hit anything that close.
It's interesting if it's real and not a simulation. I think we see a lot of. That's pretty amazing.
Probably false color. I doubt that that's the accurate colors, but
you would know, wouldn't you? Oh
yeah, I'm into this kind of stuff. That's. I mean, I think that's just zooming. You know what? I actually think that is a zoom in on a real high res image with false colors. Usually they'll just make up false colors to increase the contrast.
Oh.
Pretty typical.
Okay, isn't that interesting though?
So is Pluto a planet or not?
Hell yeah! If you can stand on it, plant a flag. It's a planet.
Well, they call it a dwarf planet, but I still think it's a planet.
You can just call it a small planet. It's a planet.
Yeah.
I could build a house on it.
But that there is definitely, I recognize that shot. That's a real picture right there.
Yeah. Now we're going to skip clip 5, unless you want to show it again. That's that one we did show last week.
Yep.
Provo Canyon Bigfoot.
Yep.
Filmed in 2012. You can just run it real quick, but we won't get into it. But once again, I think this footage is probably real. A good chance it's real based on the leg angle and some of the qualities I've seen in this and the Patterson Gimlin.
This is a really good video. Yeah.
It actually is. Yeah. I'm going to take Bigfoot. You're not going to do it by a parking lot at a park. But when it comes down the hill, the legs are at a really, really weird angle.
Yeah, that throw is really compelling, and its motion seems natural. The guy's reaction to it, seems natural. That's a pretty compelling video. I think.
Plus,
I
it was
like
filmed
that
in
one.
2012. It was quite a long time ago.
Yeah, AI wasn't a thing back then, and
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Okay, clip 6. The sound is fine. Let's just play a little bit of it. The reason I want to play this is exactly what me and Yvette saw on our parkway with these pink orbs at the same angle, same exact color. And apparently Chris Bledsoe, who many of you I'm sure know who he is, he's kind of like an abductee guy. He's getting quite well known. He's getting a lot of interviews. But anyhow, let's go ahead and play it. I thought this was interesting.
Thing. There's a bright orb running the length of my pond, and it has a tail on it. My Lord, thank you for this. My voice is shaking. You're not going to believe this video. I'm 24 seconds in.
Okay, that's it. You can freeze
That's
it.
responding to our...
The reason I wanted is we saw two of those without the tail, but that exact color, this pink, without the tail, and they were traveling together, and they came right over our car, stopped, one took off, and one blinked out. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, sound is good on clip 7. This is beyond cute.
Where are you from? Where are you from? Thank you,
Just what you need, Jeff. A little pet baby elephant.
They're amazing animals.
They are. Some people love baby elephants. Some people are creeped out by them.
Oh, I think elephants are just amazing.
They are adorable, this thing. What a weird, aren't they a weird animal? If you really think about it, an elephant.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, they're bizarre. But they're so interesting. Their social structure, their intelligence.
They're almost alien.
Yeah, they're incredible.
When I was a kid, there was an alien movie that creeped me out for years, and they looked like they had an elephant trunk. And I remember there was a scene where one of the aliens got his hand lopped off, and it went in the bottom of this guy's car, and it was always crawling around on the ground. And it was like these long needles that would come out of its fingertips, and it would sting you. When I was a little kid, I saw that. I was like 3 years old, and that thing just haunted me, that movie. I couldn't sleep at night because of that movie, but it looked like a baby elephant, the aliens. Weird. Yeah. All right. Where are we at? Clip 8. Sound is good.
8.
Yep. Helicopters chase a UAP. You decide.
They're low. 3 of them.
I love the audio on this. There's some perspective on, you always want to, if you're going to film any kind of UFO activity, anything, film, and make sure you've got some buildings in there that are stationary, some trees.
And you never want to zoom in either, because it's usually a digital zoom.
Well, you can, but once you've established what it is and the size, then it's fine. That's good. All right. Clip 9. The sound is good. This is really interesting. This is looking at the neurons of autistic kids, and they're thinking, "Oh, gee, they are different." And here you can hear all about it. Go ahead and play it. Sounds good.
Non-autistic brain, or an holistic brain, and an autistic brain. What are the differences? This information is going to knock your socks off. These are neurons, and they're the building blocks of our brain. This one right here belongs to an allistic brain, a non-autistic brain, and this one belongs to an autistic brain. You see these little branches right here? Those are called synapses. Those allow the neurons to communicate and exchange information in the brain. So the question is, why does the autistic brain have more synapses than the non-autistic brain? When humans are born and they start to develop their brains, they get excess neurons and synapses, and the brain goes through a process called synaptic pruning. Synaptic pruning is where the brain starts to refine and remove unused connections. Non-autistic brain does a heck of a lot of pruning, up to about 50% by the time the person's a young adult. The autistic brain only reduces about 16% of those synapses. More synapses, more information to process. What's this mean for all you non-autistic people out there? Allow the autistic person some more time to process, because those synapses are firing back and forth. I'm going to do more neurobiology videos, and they're going to be better than any Netflix show that's out there, I promise you. So make sure to follow for more.
Wow, that's interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
There you go. So either you were on the left and I was on the right, or I was on the right and you were on the left, or we were both on the right. One of the two. I don't know.
I think we're both on the right a little bit. I think
so.
Yeah, I think we both are a little bit neurodivergent, as they say.
Yes. Yeah, when me, you, and Eric get together, that's really fun.
There's some neurodivergence going on. 3 of us are together for sure.
Oh my God, it's a lot of laughs. Okay, clip 10. So this is a self-driving motorcycle, which you wouldn't think would be really possible. I certainly would never get on this thing.
Nope.
Ever. But let's
This motorcycle won't fall over. Yep, Honda created a motorcycle that you can sit on, even stopped, and you don't need to stick a leg out to stay upright. Short fellas rejoice. How does it work? Surprisingly, there are no gyroscopes involved. It's all done with a combination of steer-by-wire and an adjustable trail length. A bike's trail length is the distance on the ground from the steering axis to the center of the tire. For high-speed stability, you want a positive trail length. This means the tire wants to track straight at speed, much like driving a car. But at low speeds, this bike can actually shift the steering axis behind the tire center, creating a negative trail length. So now, thanks to steer-by-wire, when the front wheel pivots into the direction of a fall, the tire pushes the bike in the opposite direction, keeping it upright. Or you can just walk with the bike following upright behind you. That way there's very little risk of falling off your bike.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is interesting. I couldn't do it.
Boy, my gears are turning. That's a really clever concept.
That's
and understand it's not actually turning the bars at all. It's
right.
Like, the mechanics of that is really, really cool. I mean, adjustable trail. That's a really useful thing.
From Eric.
Yeah.
Perfect for parking in Doug's garage.
Yeah, it gets a little cramped in there.
Yeah. Okay, then we've got a bonus clip. I've entitled it "Relationships Are Fun." I do not know if the sound is good. I'm sure it is.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'll bring that up.
Do you want to tell me who the hell Rachel is?
Oh,
no, it's Jack.
No, it isn't. Someone named Rachel is calling your phone right now.
No, it's Jack.
Who is she?
Answer it. It's Jack.
Oh, it is? Okay, let's see. Hello? Oh, hi, Jack. Yeah, here he is. Why is Jack's name Rachel on your phone?
Because if it said Jack was calling, then you wouldn't have brought me my phone, would you?
Yep, there you go.
I like that one. That's pretty good.
I thought it was pretty good. All right, you ready to do science breakdown? I'm kind of anxious to get this thing going here.
And we have a fun new bumper. Here we go. Just as a side, does everyone realize Doug makes all of these bumpers and they're awesome? The intro, the outro, the bumpers. Doug makes all of them. He's so good at it, and that's a new one. I just love it. Yet another job well done, my friend. That's awesome. He whips them out so fast. It's incredible.
Anyhow, they're fun.
Moving on.
All right, and I see Val is in the background, so we're going to get through this. We'll bring Val on.
Yep.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to kind of do it backwards. And what this is going to do is all come together at the end. It's like a Larry David, Seinfeld.
It all makes sense at the end. Sure.
It all makes sense at the end to get a stay to the end. I think there's a very good chance that what I'm predicting will come true. And I will be testing it. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is, so to speak, and I will be testing Bigfoot Hair for this particular compound. Okay, go up and throw up photo 8. We'll start here. All right. It's been known for actually a kind of a short time. It's actually very surprising that flying squirrels glow pink and some other colors, shades of pink. And flying squirrels, by the way, live everywhere. They live in the northern latitudes, all over the Midwest. They live in Michigan, Val. They live, like last night, I thought, I wonder if they live in Africa around the gorillas. Hell yeah, they do.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't either. I found that. I was predicting they did, and they did. And then when I looked it up, they did. And I love that when you can predict something and then you look it up. because it made sense that they would live around the gorillas. And there's a reason why. We're going to get to this here. Okay. All right. So the question is then, why do they glow? What is the reason? And then better yet, what is the chemical or the compound of proteins that cause them to glow? And why? And one, if you're going to glow under UV light, this is when they glow under UV light, that means that the creature that glows must see in the UV spectrum, because there'd be no sense in it glowing under UV light if they couldn't see it themselves, right? Does that make sense?
Well,
in other words, if it's mate,
there's a reason for it. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't glow. There's got to be a reason for it.
There's always a reason, but it makes sense that if a creature glows, it also is going to be able to see in the UV spectrum. It's kind of the way nature works, right?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
It just makes sense. It would allow them to see each other and find their mates. And squirrels bounce around in the forest as flying squirrels so quick and so far away. They can leap almost 200 feet, with these wing folds that they have, these skin folds. Okay. So now we're going to flash way back to like 2000. So 24 years ago, we're going to flash back to a personal experience I had. I was filming, testing night vision for Animal Planet. They had never used it on Animal Planet ever. And I had called them up and said, hey, I want to use this on the bear documentary that I'm working on for them. And I wanted to film bears at night and so on. And they're like, yeah, we've never used it. We've never seen it. And they sent one of their executives. They flew out to Minneapolis. Or they had it scheduled. So I drove up to Ely, way up north, up to Ely to get footage of bears at night, which is a little spooky, right? Roaming around the woods at night to get bears. So I went up there with Joe, and Joe. And so me and Joe go up there, and we weren't even up there 5 minutes. And we're just talking, me and Joe, we're just talk. We got so many things to talk about. And a flying squirrel landed on my head. Then another one landed on my arms, my legs. They started just piling on me. And I thought, they're attracted to this this IR light using this infrared camera. I thought, well, that's interesting. So I shut the camera off and I kept talking to Joe, and they stayed on me. And more kept, jumping on me and landing on me. And I thought, well, what the heck's going on? And they're really cute and they're harmless. And, it was really cool. Plus, I'm like, and I'm going to get footage of these guys. So I'm getting there. I got footage of them leaping right to me.
That's cool.
Like right to the camera.
Sure.
And they were landing even on my camera. They were just all over me. I'm talking at one point, I probably had 25 of them on me.
Wow.
That's a lot of squirrels climbing on in the dark. But then I stopped. I said, Joe, it's not the infrared light attracting them. I said, let's stop talking. Let's pretend we're predators and be silent. They immediately booked. I mean, it was seconds, and they were leaping off, and they were gone.
Wow.
And no more squirrel. I said, okay, let's start talking again. So we start talking. Next thing you know, they're not leaping on Joe for some reason. And to this day, I don't know why they weren't on Joe. I had I think it was probably a suede coat on. It was, in the fall.
Sure.
And they didn't leap on Joe. So I do find that a little interesting. So we'll just that's just like this thing I can't explain. So we figured out that they would come and land on me when we were talking, which makes sense with any animal. They're generally predators, are quiet and silent. And if you're talking, you're not sneaky.
Right.
Which, bolsters even people that do Bigfoot research. They say, when you walk in the woods, talk. I don't believe in sneaking around in the woods either. You just be yourself,
Yeah.
As much noise as you want. Okay. That was it. That whole image of the bear documentary airs. I got great flying squirrel footage in the bear doc. Because in the bear doc, we talk about using infrared. Okay. So I show the bears I shot. Animal Planet came, they looked at this stuff, and they were really impressed, and I got permission to use it in my show. Okay. So flash forward now. Then they find out flying squirrels glow. And I took note because of my experience with flying squirrels. But for many years now, I think going on at least 5 or 6, I have almost 100% sure, I say almost, that Bigfoots can see in the UV spectrum. A lot of people think they see in IR. I don't really care if they can at this point. I believe they see in UV. They may see in IR. I haven't done any work or studies on that. But for sure, I believe they can see in UV. Why? Because seeing in UV is really a primitive eye. It means they haven't developed the filter to block out the UV wavelength. But seeing in UV is very, very helpful. It allows you to see the most protein-ridden fruit, the most protein-ridden plants, lichen with the most protein, which allows animals like caribou that they've confirmed can see in UV light wavelength. It allows them to see urine of wolves, like predators. It allows them to catch up to their herd. A lot of the females give birth when they're migrating. And then allows them to catch up to the rest of the herd because they can see the urine trails. It glows.
It's interesting.
So if you take a UV flashlight and bring it in, I always tell people, bring it in your own bathroom, and you can really see how well you clean your bathroom.
Don't ever bring one to a hotel.
Yeah, or bring one to a hotel. But
I did that once. It was a mistake.
Yeah, you don't want to do it. Okay, so I just been predicting that Bigfoots can see in the UV spectrum. Okay, but I still wonder, what is the connection? Why are flying squirrels glowing? Why do they glow? What other animals glow? And since then, they've discovered that regular squirrels have a compound, including flying squirrels. They figured out why they're glowing. They have a compound called porphyrins. It's just basically a bunch of molecules that have gotten together. It's kind of like photosynthesis. It absorbs light. It does things with light, and it's similar and related to the process, the biological molecules. So it's basically a compound. So it's called porphyrins. And they found gray squirrels have porphyrins actually even in their bone. Yeah, porphyrin, whatever. Hold on. Sorry, I'm coughing here. I'm still trying to get over my cold. Okay. So we've got that. So now I'm thinking, for years I've wondered, how do Bigfoots deal with wood ticks? Because if you're covered in hair and you're getting wood ticks crawling under all that hair, it's going to be a real problem. Especially if you're a lone male and you don't have a bunch of family members grooming you all the time.
Right.
They do carry diseases. They are carrying new diseases all the time. And I just thought, well, our Bigfoot's dealing with this. Then I thought, I wonder if flying squirrels like wood ticks. Found out favorite food.
Yeah.
In fact, they do a lot of wood tick control, flying squirrels and regular squirrels. That's one of their favorite foods. They consider it a secondary food because, they eat other things too, and berries and all sorts of things. In fact, there's some flying squirrels that only eat meat, like, insect flesh. But flying squirrels eat a lot of wood ticks off themselves because they gather a lot of them, off each other. They groom each other. And I thought, I'm wondering if all those flying squirrels were looking for food on me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I thought back, what was I wearing? Once again, did I have black on? Whatever it was doing, I just figured they were looking for food because it seemed like it. They were just kind of crawling all over. They weren't finding anything, I don't think. Maybe there were some wood ticks on me because we were walking around in the woods. Okay. It just seemed like those particular flying squirrels were very familiar with doing this behavior. And it's in an area where there's a lot of sightings, by the way. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just thinking this is like really interesting because Mike Ann, I was doing experiments with Bigfoot hair, trying to get it to, what would it do under UV light? And it would kind of glow a little bit, but it's kind of hard to differentiate between the, because you only have one hair, it isn't a group of hairs.
Sure.
You differentiate between the glow of the UV flashlight and the hair. But Mike Ann said, hey, take your cell phone because it's very sensitive to UV light and IR light. And then shine your UV flashlight on some of your Bigfoot hair and then see what happens. Look at it through the lens. I thought, God, that's brilliant. I tried it. Holy crap. You see this pink, the brightest pink on the flying squirrel?
Yeah.
That's what Bigfoot hair did.
Yeah.
I went, ooh, interesting. But that's all the proof I had that Bigfoot hair may contain a substance that glows. But then to narrow it down now that we know that that substance is porphyrins, we can now test some of the hair for legitimate science too.
Oh, cool.
For porphyrins.
That'll be valuable data.
So if you get a primate hair with porphyrins on it, that's really going to stun scientists.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, for
one
sure.
more way we may be able to examine Bigfoot hair and differentiate it between other things.
Mhm.
Porphyrins. Okay. But here's where it affects their behavior. Let's just say Bigfoots can see in UV. It would confirm they can see in UV.
Yeah,
If
for
they
sure.
have hair that has porphyrins in it or at their skin, because it can grow, porphyrins can grow at the skin, it can grow in the hair follicle, it can grow all sorts of places, even on bone. If we can confirm that the hair contains some traces of porphyrins, we then probably can assume almost 100% that Bigfoots can see in UV. And that means to each other they glow,
Yeah.
which would be really helpful for a rare animal to find each other.
Yeah.
So what you see in a thermal cam, they're gonna have that same kind of vision, right? But it would allow them to hunt toads, rats, rodents easier, rabbits, even find deer urine, because all these things glow. And it would help them source out the highest protein fruit, berries. They're not gonna pick this one and eat it because it doesn't have the highest concentration of protein. Like when caribou see lichen, if you notice, they'll munch on this one and this one and this one, but they won't just eat every little bit of it because they're very being picky. They only want to digest the highest protein lichen. So to them, the best lichen looks blood red, like really bright red.
Yeah.
Just fascinating. So I suspect they're going to discover deer see in UV. I suspect there's going to be more and more animals that they're going to keep adding. I would think it's like 95% that bears see an UV wavelength. And once again, it's a more primitive eye. It's not something you evolve with. We evolved to get rid of the UV vision. So no doubt humans had it also. That we had UV vision. It's a big help in survival. But we don't need it anymore, right?
Just occurred to me too. It would immediately tell Bigfoot that we're not a Bigfoot if it sees a man walking through the woods that's not glowing. It knows that it's something else. That would make, you know what I mean. That would help it spot something
So
that isn't
I don't
Bigfoot.
know what people think, but think about the grooming that the wood ticks, or how the Bigfoots could benefit from flying squirrels constantly on them.
Yeah.
While they're charging through the woods, just grabbing every wood tick that they pick up.
Mm-hmm.
And flying squirrels will dig and, dig in their fur. And then I was thinking about other animals that we know about. Play video S1.
S1, okay.
Yeah. Which is a crow eating ticks off a kangaroo. This happens all through nature, these wood tick eating. So you see these terrible bloated wood ticks.
Oh,
in the
heck.
kangaroo area. Yeah, they're all bloated, mature wood ticks. And we don't have to show too much of this, but this crow wants to eat those things. And so it does what it can. It starts pulling them off this deer. It's kind of gross. Sorry. There you got one just like, okay, that's enough of that. Go to video S2 real quick. This is a squirrel grooming a cat. Once again, it's a squirrel.
Okay, 1 second here. There we go.
It's just natural behavior.
Сонь, опять твой хвостик
It's
хочет
exactly what all
оторвать.
those flying squirrels were doing when they were on me. They're all just like digging.
Хочет?
Yeah, that's totally what it's doing.
Что он делает?
Yeah, it's grooming the cat.
Grooming.
It's natural behavior with squirrels.
It's interesting.
They're looking for
Причёсывает тебя.
yes, to eat.
Укладку тебе будет делать.
All right,
And the cat obviously knows what's going on, so that's pretty cool.
that's enough. And they've just discovered like a new flying squirrel species in Humboldt called the Humboldt flying squirrel, brand new species in 2017. You know what Humboldt County is, right? Patty.
Yeah.
You just can't make this crap up, right?
I always think of Humboldt squid. It's one of the most terrifying animals on the planet.
Yeah. But Humboldt,
Sidetrack.
this is a Humboldt flying squirrel. That's, it's the northern coast California brand new species. Completely unknown up until 2017.
Amazing.
So there are 43 species of flying squirrels in all four continents for sure. And the only ones I've done, which is like most of them live in Asia. Most varieties live in Asia, but North America, South America, Asia, Africa. And Asia is the most different species, which is interesting too. And of course, we're told they have Bigfoots over there by different names. And flying squirrels don't hibernate. Wood ticks, by the way, you can get wood ticks in the wintertime.
I've had them in the winter. I've definitely had them in the winter.
You didn't know that. But flying squirrels, they don't really hibernate. They use that Hajicek method, which is what I think Bigfoots do too. Just basically they get all cozy, contented. They rest a lot. They just kind of slow it down. They're probably not as active. They go through life at a slower pace is kind of my thought.
Torpor is the word for that.
Well, I call it Hajicek.
Torpor, Torpor.
Yeah, no, I know what that is. That's kind of what bears do too, because I film bears all winter and they're awake, man, damn near the whole winter. Yeah, they go to sleep. It's like we do, and they'd sleep 8 hours. But they'd wake up and they'd groom and they do different things. What they don't do, bears in the winter, because they're in that den, is they have a way, because they're not eating, not taking in nutrition, and they're hibernating only because they're starving. There's no food. Otherwise, the cold wouldn't really bother them, but there's not much to eat. And so they pretty much get a fecal plug, and they just kind of slough off all the insides of their intestines while they're in the hibernation. But other animals do a lot more resting in the winter. Bigfoot just may do it, maybe a period of rest.
Sure.
They're just resting more, but on a nice day, they come out. Same with squirrels. They're not coming out in 20 below weather. They're conserving energy. In Ohio, flying squirrels are the dominant squirrel species. I thought that was interesting. Squirrels have been seen grooming humans. I thought that was it. These are all things I found out. Flying squirrels, they've been around for 160 million years. Flying squirrels have.
Wow.
It's really interesting. So it may not just be flying squirrels, it could be red squirrels. I don't know. And this is just a theory. So my theory is I will find porphyrins in Bigfoot hair. If some other company or television somebody wants to beat me to it, so be it. Just give me the information. Somebody wants to beat me to it or want to pay for this porphyrin test on Bigfoot hair.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I do have enough here. So my prediction, it will. That's it. Done.
Cool.
I could be wrong, but that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
And that concludes. Oh, hey, before we go, throw up photo 10.
Sure.
I want to just show another, just to show you what a Bigfoot might see if it sees a flying squirrel. That's kind of what it's like to have UV vision. And by the way, this is called bioluminescence. fluorescence, biofluorescence. When
Interesting.
something glows under UV light. And by the way, the moon puts out a lot of UV light. The moon does.
Well, I'm sure it's bouncing off the sun.
Yeah, it's bouncing off the sun. So that wavelength really is very prevalent in the woods. So there you go. And if you want to get a UV light of your own, get a good UV flashlight.
They're really cheap.
They're super cheap. It's used for finding pet urine in your home.
Yeah. And they're really cool. Like you said, they're cool to play with in the woods. I'm going to start doing that more often. You see all kinds of
why
strange
not?
stuff in the
Everybody
woods.
uses those red flashlights when they do research.
Yeah.
Why not bring a powerful UV flashlight with you? You may be surprised. What if you see some pink animal, some big pink animal walking?
Yeah, that'd be wild.
So there we go. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. All right. Guest.
Yep.
Val Zavala. He's got 5,400 members approximately in his, let's see, I'm looking in the Michigan Bigfoot Report and Data. And it's called Gumshoe Guy Corner. I don't know why he's got two names, but that makes sense. And tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Bigfoot's in Michigan, and he's been collecting reports and obviously takes reports currently. Let me read his bio here. He says he's not a Bigfoot expert. I agree. Nobody is. He graduated from Central Michigan, served 2 terms in the U.S. Army honorably, and worked his entire adult life in law enforcement in various capacities, including federal, state, county, and local levels. He wrote a published article for the large intelligence group called MAGLOGEN, Mid-Atlantic Great Lakes Organized Crime Law Enforcement Network. Okay. So he's been a law enforcement instructor. He's taught, I think, law enforcement community colleges, blah, 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 go on and on here. But his work in Bigfoot research wasn't driven, it says, by childhood aspirations. Rather, it was pure happenstance when he found himself looking deeper into the mystery, wondering how he can help witnesses. Okay. And nearly 2 years to the day that he retired, he saw multiple Bigfoots in his home state, Michigan. That was in 2014. So I want to start there. And let's, you're going to do whatever you got to run there, Jeff.
Okay, ready?
We'll bring Val on.
All right, and welcome, Val.
Hey, Val.
Hello, guys.
How are
Doug,
you?
Jeff, finally get
So,
to see you.
so I want to butt in here and say that you've been working on this study and collecting data for 12 years, right? And so we should have plenty to talk about because, god dang, that's a long time.
Is it?
Long time. Yeah, it is. That's a long time. So I want to hear about your sighting because I still have not heard. We talked about everything but your sighting, Val.
Yeah. We can talk about the sighting, which occurred July 14th.
Yep.
July 19th, 2014. I retired June 2012.
Yep.
It's important to know that when you look at this stuff, you want to go back into history, and as a gumshoe guy, as a curious mind, I want to look at this stuff and see where it occurred. Did it occur just to me in 2014? Is it something that was going on for some time?
Well, let's hear the sighting first, Val, then we can talk about that stuff. Let's hear what happened.
The sighting took place again 2014 July 19th in a state park in Washtenaw County on the cusp of Jackson County. And I'm talking about probably 20 minutes from the big house in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's very close. Outside of Chelsea, Michigan, the Purple House, that kind of stuff. So that particular day, it was very, very hot and humid. One of the Michigan sweltering summers where it's very, very humid. When you're out in the woods, you've got bugs and flies eating you up. It's very hot. And I, myself in particular, am not very nice when I'm hungry. And we've been out all day long. And we decided to cross a soybean field at the time and venture into a somewhat of a cul-de-sac surrounded by marshy swamps and stuff. I believe it was the Winnie Wawa Lake that's in that area. It's all Indian histories throughout that area. We started venturing into the tree line. And as we're moving into that area, we keep hearing things flittering through the leaves up above us. And it's very dark inside the tree line. Very bright out in the fields and stuff, but very shrouded and leaf covered inside the forest. And these things were falling down. And myself and my partner paused a few seconds and discussed, if this was rain, but we didn't see any rain. It didn't look like there was any clouds or anything. So it wasn't rain, but what was it flittering through the leaves? And I think at some point we looked down, there were some acorns around. So we decided it must be acorns, but where's that coming from? So we continued on. And then we heard a large crack, a large report. When you hear a large piece of wood crack in the woods, it echoes and reverberates. And that's what we heard. And that caused some alarm at that point because everything else was quiet at that point. It was the customary report that you read. You're in a place, you feel something, your personal barometer starts to drop.
Yeah.
You know that something's happening here, but you're not quite putting your finger on it.
But you weren't thinking Bigfoot, were you, Val?
Not really. I mean, I don't know what to think. Remember, I've never seen one of these before. This is the first time I've been out.
But you're aware. I mean, we were all pretty much aware that these things were a possibility.
Yes, of course. I mean, I carried a cheap 35 millimeter camera with me, more symbolic than anything. I mean, for laughs and giggles, who was going to see a Bigfoot? What's the chances of seeing such a thing if it was alive and if it was real? At that point, I'm more curiosity driven than anything. I have to satisfy this natural need to figure things out. And so we continue walking. The idea that the things are falling through the trees and you hear that large crack, something's not right. But we continued forward. The throwing objects continued, and then we hear another crack, a second one. That's when we were put on edge. But we continued forward until we came into what I would call the epicenter of this sighting. And there, in the center of this cul-de-sac, we find a great big large tree. It had fallen some point. I don't know that it fell when we were there. I don't know if it was a felled tree from last month. I don't know. What I do know is that it was very large, and there was no way for myself or my partner to step over this tree. It was that large. You had to jump up on it, scoot your butt over, and drop on the other side. Directly on the other side of this tree, there was a large, I'm talking about a huge, large bramble bush or a combination of bushes that were hollowed out in the core. And it reminded me of a Bigfoot nest. a nest of some sort, a cave, made out of weeds and sticks and stuff, tangles of sticks. And it was very deep, very long. It wasn't real tall, but it was long. And while my partner was on the other side on his hands and knees, looking and peering inside this thing, I was still on the opposite side of the tree, looking around, taking in these feelings. I was a law enforcement officer. I'm looking up in the trees, I'm looking all around. And one of the things I did do in my peripheral, I see something to my right, and I took my camera and swung it around without giving up any tills, and started snapping in a 100-degree arc. I've done that many times on the streets.
Is this a like a film camera, Val, or is this a digital type camera?
I had it set for single pictures, photographs. So I was snapping manually. Boom, 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 boom.
But I mean, was it a film, 35 millimeter type film in there, or was it like digital?
It was digital.
Oh, okay. I'm just
digital with a memory card and stuff. And so, and like I said, I've done this so many times before at crime scenes and stuff. You'd be surprised who shows up at their mess. They want to see what's going on. I did this with Sasquatch, and I caught him. And what I seen on the side of a tree was something that I've never, quite frankly, I've never seen before in my life. I mean, I've seen these goofy fish wrap papers at grocery store checkout counters, but I've never seen something in real life like this before. And my first thought, and by the way, let me just preface this by saying, when I agreed to come onto this show, I was given parameters, no foul language, no this, no that, and that's okay. That's cool. I'm okay with that. I'm very okay with that. Anybody that's been on my group site knows this. But when I seen this thing, my first thought in my mind was, this has to be somebody playing. You got to be kidding. I said, what the F? Are you kidding me already? That's my words. That's what I said. Are you kidding me already? And I said it loud enough. And this thing was probably 10 to 13 feet off the ground on the side of a tree. Probably, I don't know, 20 yards away. But it was big. I would say probably 9 foot tall, 8.5, 9 foot tall. And I'm yelling loud enough for it to hear. And I'm yelling loud enough for my partner to hear on the other side of the tree. What the F? Are you kidding me already? And then I noticed the eyes are blinking. It didn't say a word. I didn't hear any voice. I didn't hear any vocalizations. I didn't smell anything. But it was staring at me, and it was blinking eyes. And then I said something. I don't know why I said this, but I called it a freak. I said, "You freak, you!" In my silly attempt to provoke it, some type of response, because I half expected, because it looks so human. The face looks so human. I half expected this thing to laugh and say, "Okay, guys, I'm part of DNR out here. We're poaching, we're anti-poaching." I expected this, and I never received that. It just had that blank stare in its face, and it just blinking at me. But I'm going to tell you something. The emotions I felt was unlike anything that I've ever experienced in my life. I've seen a lot of stuff in my career, good stuff, bad stuff. I've seen a lot of stuff. This thing had the ability. I listened to your pre-show about the UV and all this kind of stuff, the science end of Bigfoot, Sasquatch. But this individual, this being, has the ability to communicate without moving its lips. I'm convinced of that. I felt it. I sensed it. I heard it. As clear as I am today speaking with you, that's what I thought. And I felt, I'm not the math guy. I graduated from Central Michigan. I'm a reader. My area of love and expertise was literature and history and political science. Graduating with a degree in community development. I'm interested in communities and helping people. That's me. This thing, for whatever reason, I'm thinking mathematical equations. And it felt as though I was being bombarded with questions and statements and remarks and stuff. And I felt the sense of...
So, okay, well, let me interrupt you. You're feeling more like emotional kind of thoughts? It's not like exact words coming into your brain. It's just more like a lot of feelings.
Doug, it's a combination of both.
Yeah,
it's unnatural. Okay. This is, I'm a clear, sober individual.
Had you ever experienced anything like that ever in your life?
No.
Ever? How about since?
Well, we're not going into that.
Well, okay. Well,
we're not going into that. But
what I want to know is, this is like a brand new, like, what the hell is going on in my brain kind of feeling.
Now, I was asked not to get into that part when I come on.
No, I'm just talking about what you're feeling at the moment.
Yeah. But if you ask if I've ever felt that way since, yeah, there, something happened and something like that occurred, which told me that this wasn't normal.
Okay.
This wasn't normal. And I got the sense that it wasn't just one person. To me, it wasn't one person. There was too much communication going on.
Okay.
Too much thought going on here. I felt as though I was being drained of my energy.
Okay.
My life source felt like it was being drained. And while this probably only took a matter of seconds, it felt like it was a long time. And I really thought, and I remember talking to Pallades early in my career. I read these books. I read his books. I was very familiar with them. I was familiar with infrasound. And it dawned on me while this was going on, I'm under the influence of something very powerful, something very strong, beyond my control. And it occurred to me during this experience that this is how people disappear. This is how predators prey on their prey. This is exactly what they do. They put the thing in a state of being, force them to go to sleep, and whatever, you disappear. That's exactly how this happens. I'm convinced of this.
Okay, but what are you seeing at this point still? What do you see?
I still see the individual. When I see the individual on the tree, there's a second individual higher in the tree next to this one that I didn't capture in the photo. It looked totally different than the one I was looking at. The one I was looking at had hair that was similar to the color of Carhartt work coats and stuff, outdoor coats, the color of deer fur. It
almost like an auburn, brown. Yeah.
Like a burnt red color.
Okay, cool.
And the individual in the tree, however, was blonde haired, and it reminded me of those lap dog, those big dogs, the wealthy people. You see commercials of these long haired dogs with that long hair,
like that, like an Afghan
dog, and that's what this thing looked like. Very long hair. It was higher in a tree next to this one. That's what I seen. That's exactly what I seen. I believe I was in shock at this point. I mean, I can't believe this. This is unbelievable. And then, as I said, I felt confused and stuff because all of these thoughts rolling in at me at one time. And I looked at my partner, Bob. And I told Bob, I says, we got to go. We have to leave now. And he, asked what was wrong, what's wrong. I said, Bob, I'm not going to talk about it. Just get me back to my car. That's all I want to do. Get me back to my car and I want to go home. We left the tree line. And as soon as we stepped out of the tree line back into the soybean field, there on the ground, we pause. We find a huge footprint pressed in the hot Michigan clay dirt. And we take a picture of it. You got a picture of it up there someplace. Measured it. And I told Bob, I says, if that thing comes out of the woods on all fours, I says, I'm going to have a heart attack right here, brother. I'm just telling you right now. I said, let's get going back to the car. Give me a ride back to the car. And then I just want to go home. I want to think about this. Well, what I really want to do is I want to check my memory card to make sure that, because I know I took a picture of it. I know what I seen. I want to confirm for myself that it was real. And it was real. And the first thing that I wanted to do when he dropped me off at my car to take that 50-mile drive back to my house, I wanted to go into McDonald's and grab me a cheeseburger. Of all things, I wanted a cheeseburger. And it didn't dawn on me until afterwards, long afterwards, that the reason why I believe, the reason why I craved for a cheeseburger, not a carton of milk, but a cheeseburger, was because like babies that are breastfed, they crave that chemical in dairy to calm them down. I'm not sure what this thing was, but it wasn't, it's, to me, the hardest part about witnessing something like this, I don't know if you guys have ever witnessed these things before, but for me, the hardest part about this is coming to grips with your own reality. That's reality. When you see something like this, reality is a nasty thing to experience, because it's not supposed to be like that, because all of our life we've been told certain things. And so our mind, with those experiences, are built, we build up all these safeguards and these fortresses around what we think is real. But when you see something like this, live living color, it's a harsh reality. And what's more, the experience of seeing something like this is enduring a gauntlet of mockery and ridicule from people that don't understand it. They don't want to hear about it, and they don't believe you. They believe that you're a hoax and a prank, and that somehow I created this CGI photo and stuff. And that's really the crux of anybody involved in Bigfootery. You got witnesses. You got witnesses who are victimized twice. Once by the serving of reality, and second by the mockery and the ridicule that follows with this stuff. So that's my feeling about the.
Okay, well, I want to backtrack a bit. You had mentioned the eyes were glowing. Was it like the mirror membrane, like a deer has, or was it reflecting light, or do you think it was actually producing light?
Well, my friend, I don't recall. Maybe I did, but I don't recall saying that the eyes were glowing.
Oh, I could have swore that's what you noticed.
This is daylight.
Oh, it was daylight.
The eyes are blinking at me.
Ah.
But
what time of day was it, Val?
I would say late, early evening. It was very light when this occurred, and by the time we got out of there, we're running into dusk. It's summer, so it gets darker later. But yeah, it seemed like a lot of time went by in this whole event and stuff. But yeah, there was a lot of daylight. But I might add this back to that scene. Once I posted that picture, somebody from the UK took it. They took it, back to UK, and they analyzed the photo. And I didn't share that part with you, and I may at some point, but they sent it back to me, and they told me that we looked at this photo to see if it was fake, whatever. And they said, we wanted to tell you that there was 4 other individuals on the ground all around you that you didn't see. Your photo focuses on that one, but there was 4 others on the ground all around you. And they showed them to me. They circled them and they showed them. They pointed them out. But they also said, well, we apologize for taking your photo, but here it is, and here's what we've seen in your photo. And they did.
What was the gentleman that you were with? I mean, somebody had kind of brought this up. Did they see anything?
No,
nothing.
He didn't see anything. No. His back was turned. He was on his hands and knees, looking in that cave, or that bramble bush, that nest and stuff, that entanglement. But yeah. When I got the message back from that member from the UK, it made sense to me. A lot of this makes sense. That I got this feeling that it was the thought was so confusing. It was like a lot of people talking at me at one time. It wasn't like me asking questions or them asking questions. It was like all these different voices talking at one time. And I equate that to, I live in the suburbs. There's people all around. There's people on the sidewalk. If I walked up on a group of men on a sidewalk and stuck my nose in their business, their natural response would probably ask me who I was, what I wanted, what I needed, and things of that nature. And that's a lot of what I felt at the time. But I'm going to tell you something, Doug and Jeff. I also felt this sense of intrusion. And what I mean by that is, while I'm sitting here next to 2 computers, it felt as though, if I could use the analogy, it felt as though somebody was standing over my shoulder, rifling through my files as I'm talking to you. That's intrusion. That's very intrusive and invasive. Right. That's the feeling that I got, and I never felt any love. I didn't feel the sense of loving warmth and stuff. I felt a sense of foreboding, overwhelming, powerful foreboding feelings and stuff.
How do you know that didn't come from like infrasound that some people claim?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. It could be exactly this, but I'll tell you.
Gotcha.
I'll tell you during this experience, while I'm very lucid in thought, thinking about this stuff, trying to rationalize all this stuff at one time, the beast, the hairy beast, these thoughts, these feelings, this obvious sense of being under the influence of something. It's not normal. It's not natural to me. I've never felt that before. I never felt that going in there, but yet I feel it right there in that moment, in that time. And the only time that this feeling seceded was when I thought of free will. God gives us free will in our lives. Every individual born is given the gift of free will. The moment I thought of that, that's when I felt the easing, the cessation, this thing receding. And that's when I told Bob, I says, we got to go. And while I'm out there in the woods and stuff, I'm strapped. I've got what I carried on duty, strapped right to my right side. It's seen it. I know it's seen it. So I asked Janet Carter, what is with this? What is with these individuals? I says, the thing was staring at me. I was staring at it. And I says, I got the sense that this thing was peering right through my soul. Oh, yes, they are, Val. She says, they were reading you. I says, what do you mean reading me? What does that mean? Well, they're looking to see what kind of person you are. So a lot of this stuff at that time, 2012, was new to me, Doug. I mean, I've never encountered this stuff before. I've never seen one like this before. But I can empathize and sympathize with people that do see them. And that's one of the motivations for me to stop lurking on these Bigfoot sites,
right,
as an anonymous person, and step into the light, identify myself, and encourage people to come out and talk about this stuff. And that's what I did.
Well, speaking of other people, I mean, you've been hearing reports for 12 years. What are some of do you have some favorite ones you want to relay that you think are interesting from standpoints?
I think
they don't have to be like yours. They can just be, we're really interested.
Anecdotal kind of stuff.
Yeah, the anecdotal sightings.
I like the history, the historical value of these things. So it's not just me that's seeing these things. It's not just me that thinks about this stuff. My gosh, this is going on before the War of 1812. I mean, they've been seeing these things.
Oh, sure.
That's exactly right.
But is there a specific story that we can extract out that one of your favorites? Is there a historical?
In the 1800s, in the early 1800s, I would say probably 1860 or earlier, there was a group of. By then, there were still a lot of French people in Michigan, and a lot of these French people were furriers. They were trappers and stuff. That's how they made their living. And remember, in early 1800s, there wasn't a computer, there wasn't telephones or any kind of communication like that. Their only way of communicating news was by courier, and by that, the French people would hop on a ship and float it across the ocean and share this information to their government in Paris, France. And that's how Paris, France and in Europe shared this information. They passed it around like this. So in this time period in Michigan, shortly after Michigan became a state in 1837. And today, it's 83 counties, but then it was part of the old territorial Northwest Territory. Very rugged, very ominous. And in this time period, in the 1860s, there was a report of warriors, Native Indian warriors that went out and came back, and they were hunters, and they came back and they came to this village in the area of Mount Clemens. It would be Macomb County today. And they reported to this French trader that they seen a tribe, they called it a tribe or a clan of Sasquatch. They didn't call them Sasquatch, they just had they described them in physical.
Yeah, a lot of them described them as wild men.
Yeah, I mean, but surely the Indians were aware of them right then. But they said that they were heading this way. They passed them up in Saginaw, Midland area. And the last time that they seen them, they were heading south through Lapeer County. So this little hamlet, if you can imagine this, in the 1860s, they say that these tribe of people come to this town, and the bells on the towers of this little town they claim. Now I'm reading this. I'm reciting what I read. Started to ring. You can hear the old cast iron bells ringing. And these things walked into this village. The dogs are barking. Well, now they said that these things sort of took control of the village because the villagers claimed, this is a letter, this is a post sent to Paris, France. They claimed that the Sasquatch sucked the milk dry from the cows and the goats. And they said that every time that they walked through the cornfields and stuff, the corn would die, the vegetation would die anywhere that they passed through.
I've never heard that one.
Yeah, and they
That's
blamed that on witchcraft and stuff. 1860s. This is not my words. It's what was written in a dispatch. The dispatch went to France, went to Paris, went to France, and it went to Moscow and came back. This dispatch. So the villagers had enough of it. They gathered some men in the village. They grabbed their weapons, whatever they were, torches and stuff, and they were going to run these things out of town. The creatures went to an island. I believe it's Harson's Island. What is Harson's Island today? You could look it up and Google it, and they went on that island as refuge. The villagers, when they got their watercraft, their canoes and stuff together, they went across the island looking for them. They wanted to dispatch them, but they couldn't find them. Then another report comes back to this village and to the French and stuff, that these same group of tribe of Sasquatch were also seen back up there in Midland again. Somehow they got from Macomb County, Harson's Island, underwater, back up there to Midland, and that's where they were sighted again.
Yeah.
In that time period, it would be impossible to walk. You're talking about there's no roads, no mode of travel other than by feet, but it would be hard to travel without anybody seeing you. But the question was, the mystery is, how did they get there so quick? From down here to up there? My guess is this is only my guess, is that they're expert swimmers, they're aquatic beings, and they know
water apes. Yeah.
Yes, and they know where the canals and the rivers are, and they travel it. But to me that was very fascinating, very, very fascinating. Another one that's also fascinating to me, Doug and Jeff, is I don't know if you're aware of this, but Michigan has petroglyphs. There's been petroglyphs found in caves in Michigan. Now, a lot of people say there's no caves in Michigan. Well, there is. They're not widely reported like a lot of different states and stuff. I talked to Kathy Strain, who I know from a large Bigfoot site. Kathy Strain did a wonderful job authoring a book explaining this stuff. And
yeah, she's a Forest Service archaeologist.
Yes, her husband's involved in
Bob
study too.
Yeah, she goes under, if anybody's looking for her, she goes under Kathy Moskowitz.
Exactly.
No,
exactly.
She got married.
Yeah. Very nice lady. Very nice lady. And she remembers me. But I don't think she was aware that there was a petroglyph in Michigan, because a lot of her studies centered on California and Arizona and stuff. But I mentioned this to her in a place called in Fayetteville, Delta County. There is a cave that was discovered back in the 60s, in the early 60s. 1963, I think it was first discovered. And what they found was they call it Spider Cave. And what they found there was a cave off a cliff about 140 feet from the water's surface. It's pretty steep. Within the cave, the early explorers found a lot of sharps, and they reported finding sharps. Doug and Jeff, some of these sharps were reported to be as old as 300 BC.
Are you talking about like arrowheads and spearheads?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
The theory was that early Aboriginal Indians were target practicing in this cave that they called Spider Cave, because that's the resemblance of this character inscribed on the walls and stone inside this cave. So when you think about this for a moment, first of all, the water level must have been extremely high in Lake Michigan. And the watercraft, the canoes, the boats, whatever they used, had to have been very, very high. I mean, a cave, 140 feet. Now it's 140 feet from water surface. But these Indians are shooting spears and arrows inside this cave, which in that period of time, I don't think anybody had the luxury, as a hunter-gatherer, anybody had the luxury of expending weapons and arrows and spears like that. So there must have been a reason for them to do this. And I'm telling you, when I looked at this drawing of Spider-Man, it sure looked awfully close to the Momo monster of Missouri, the early drawings of that thing. The two of them together looked alike, with long arms and stuff. So I'm thinking that perhaps, that was also a Sasquatch that they were fighting with and stuff. So it's pretty interesting. And to this day, I understand that the state of Michigan took control of this cave, sealed it, locked it up, and forbade any trespassers from going in there.
All right, let's flash forward modern times. What sighting seems to kind of haunt you a bit, or it's hard to forget? A sighting that happened in Michigan. Is there one that comes to mind that's hard to forget that you could relay to us?
Well, there's 2,838 sightings in Michigan.
I just want to hear one.
Mm-hmm.
Pick one. I'm just saying, is there one that stands out?
Yeah, Doug, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. All right. I got you. Anytime you see these reports with animals in the trees, animals, Sasquatches trying to enter homes, enter cars and stuff. Yeah, those are bothersome. Those are very bothersome. These are not animals. These are not pets. These are not, a lot of times what I see, these aren't friendly creatures. People have been killed by these things, I believe, in Michigan, as they are across the country. You've got reports of Sasquatch being chased by police officers in police cars across people's lawns to get them to leave people's houses alone. You got a lot of stuff. You got people going out in the woods and hunting these things in marshes, finding caves out in Muskegon County that were full of bones and stuff, and being chased out of there. You got people up in lower Michigan, farmers and stuff, that hear their calves squalling and see a Sasquatch eating their calf and stuff. The farmer goes out there and he gets attacked. He calls the state police for help. You see a lot of this stuff. You see farmers that these are Michigan reports. You see farmers that have left their farming duties and let their barns go stale, and they report that their barns are being filled up with carcasses of animals, turkeys, dogs, cats, deer, and they have to use an end loader to clear it out, get rid of them.
So So they'll abandon a barn and then they'll check on it, whatever, a long time later, and there's a bunch of carcasses.
And the farmer's done this twice, and he's used an end loader, a bucket to clear the stuff out. The things, Sasquatches, Bigfoots, find homage in barns, abandoned barns that aren't used, and they make their homes there. There's the case up in eastern Michigan, Sanilac, Tuscola County, where a young girl reported, and this made news all over the place years ago. The Sasquatch was bothering their farm. A young girl says that she had a cat that meowed and all this kind of stuff, and she wanted to get the cat out of the barn or whatever it was because it was calling for help. She stuck her hand inside the barn, and she said that she felt a hairy body, furry body, like a Sasquatch in the barn, mimicking like a ventriloquist, a cat, to get her inside the barn and stuff.
That's creepy.
This made news. In Yale, Michigan, there was some reports to the police that they reported dogs fighting with a Sasquatch, and then the police arrive on the scene and they see 3 German shepherds on the roof of a house that were tossed up there on the house.
Alive or dead?
They were alive. We got reports of steer in trees. You got reports of deer in trees. You got reports of dogs, ponies. A lot of these animals in the trees like that have the traditional broken necks, twisted legs, and stuff.
Have you heard a lot of stories about the twisted radial breaks on deer and other animals?
Outside of Michigan is not, Doug. Michigan is like a microcosm of United States, North America. Whatever happens in Michigan happens in that greater area to a larger extent. And yes, of course, there are a lot of reports of that. There's not only a lot of reports of that, there's a lot of reports of human beings like that. Exactly.
I would love to get my hands on a leg bone that's been twisted or broken so I can take it to a good orthopedic surgeon and then we can build something to test what kind of torque it takes to cause a similar break on an unbroken deer leg.
It's interesting you say that because I've got pictures of purported, and I found these in Waterloo State Park, the same park that I had the sighting in, tree twists. And what I've done was I've taken these tree twists and put them together with purported photos of deer with twisted necks and twisted legs. I don't want to sound gross and stuff, but really, when you're looking at this stuff, when you're seeing this stuff, you have to fit the pieces together and show them to people, because people aren't going to believe. People don't see these things like this. They don't connect the pieces together like this. But you when you see the torque that it takes to twist a tree the way it's twisted in the woods, and it's not a natural wind or ice or anything like that. When you see broken trees in the woods and you see devastation, catastrophic devastation in the woods, the first thing that I think of is tornadic winds,
right?
Or depending on the season, I would say ice or snow. But when you have perfect, beautiful foliage all around, and you have that one tree that's twisted so hard, it's gotta make you think about this stuff.
Well, one of the things that we did for Legend Meets Science, we had a structural engineer examine a lot of these tree twists. Ooh, and the results are really interesting. So I'm not going to give it away, but there's ways to tell if it's storm damage or something grabbed it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
is fascinating.
when you think about the PSI, the pounds per square inch it takes to torque that,
yeah,
it's incredible.
it really is. Why do you think they break the legs on deer? Do you think that's how they catch them, by breaking their legs, or do you think they immobilize? One of the things it hit me one day, that they would immobilize the deer so then it would stay alive and they could come back at any point, within reason, before the deer perished, and they'd have fresh meat. Is that
well? Yeah, I would agree. If you're going, and think about this, if you're going to immobilize something or somebody, you're gonna take away their leg, right? I mean, that's me. That's the way I would think. But then this gets to, when you talk about the twisting of the leg, there's a medical term for because it's not only the legs, Doug and Jeff, it's the necks too.
Real? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can believe that. Yep.
The twisting or the breaking of the necks is sudden death, and we see this a lot. It happens in crime. It happens out there in the woods like that, and law enforcement's not equipped for that kind of stuff.
Did I ever tell you, Val? We were horseback riding on a research expedition. We had rode through an area, and then we came back, and there was a coyote laying in the trail, across the trail that we had just rode through maybe an hour earlier, and it's paralyzed. It's alive, but paralyzed. It was clearly its back spine had been just separated to just paralyze it, but the coyote was alive. And we had smelled this terrible stench of rotten meat right before we came across that coyote. And I thought, ooh, how the thing couldn't have crawled there and laid down. It was paralyzed. Something placed it there. It's kind of like a warning to us, I guess.
Probably, I would think. But I got to tell you this also, to some of the Michigan militia that I spoke to, they made Bigfoot reports too. They tell me that, because I used to hunt years ago, I used to hunt down in Lenawee County, Hillsdale, in that area, and that's where I ran into the militia down there. These guys were nice. They're just like you and me, chit chat and everything else. But they were telling me that they were familiar with Sasquatch and Bigfoot in the area, and a lot of times they would feed the Sasquatch when they bivouacked out there in the woods. They would feed them, and the Sasquatch in turn, I don't know how true this is. This is what they tell me. The Sasquatch in turn would keep the coyotes away from them, keep it away from their camps when they sleep. Coyotes are a nuisance to a lot of people, and I've seen reports. I've got pictures of coyotes in trees to serve as a warning to other coyotes, probably. It's a different area to get involved in.
What area of the Bigfoot mystery puzzles you the most, Val? If you could talk to somebody who, like something higher above, and they knew the answers to all your questions, what question would you ask? What would you like?
Well, because of my background, I'm concerned with the doc. I wrote a document. It's called The Tipping Point, and it shows 357 deaths that I have figured. It's probably very low, or it's probably very high. I don't know how. It's not empirical. But when you look at something with 300 deaths and over 500 injuries, it puzzles me the way these investigations are done with Sasquatch.
Let's back up just a bit, Val. When you mean deaths, you're talking human deaths?
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so like what would we call it? unknown, maybe kind of unknowns of what had killed these people.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, mysterious deaths, I guess. Yeah.
And the thing of it is, it's no secret to anybody that these are intelligent beings. They are intelligent.
Agreed.
They are very intelligent. However, they're not perfect. They're imperfect. They are imperfect.
And that's what we need to focus in on.
And because they're imperfect, just like you and us, you and me, we're imperfect. I'm not perfect. We make mistakes, and so do they. The difference is you got people like me that profile and look at the stuff and study it and analyze it. And I'm not the only one that does this. There's other people that do it. And we're looking at the clues and the tells and the confirmations. It's a lot like you would look at somebody if they went into a donut shop, broke into a donut shop, ate a bunch of donuts, spilled the white powder sugar all over the place, walked out of the building, and there you see them. And they're telling you, I didn't do it. And you're following the tracks. Sasquatch is a lot like this. Sasquatch are very intelligent, but they're not perfect. And they leave mistakes behind them.
So you're thinking there's been many deaths from
Yes,
Bigfoot.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, it's fine.
I mean, brother, they're so smart.
You could be right.
They're so smart that they can make these accidents look like accidents.
Wow.
And they're dismissed as accidents.
That's a new theory.
Yes.
Do you think it's possible that that's why the government doesn't seem to be kind of, forthright on Bigfoot sightings and Bigfoot's being a real species because they might be far more dangerous than we
I think
have acknowledged?
a lot of good information comes from government. Serious, as bad as government is, government is the one that tells us, you and me, we're not going to talk about Bigfoot. We're not going to mention the name Sasquatch, but we'll tell you bear, because all through history, people have equated Sasquatch with bear. Even early native Indians referred to Sasquatch as bear people. So now, law enforcement uses that word back and forth as bears. They won't talk about Sasquatch. They won't mention Bigfoot. If they don't mention bear, they'll mention wild dogs or whatever they want to mention. Big cat, whatever they mention, but they're not going to talk about Sasquatch and Bigfoot. It's always bears. And so when you start looking at this stuff and you start realizing that, a lot of this gets blamed on bears. Bears don't want anything to do with people. I mean, we know how to make bears go extinct if we wanted to. It's been done for hundreds of years. Sasquatch, on the other hand, is very intelligent. I don't think they got the best interest of people in their heart. We know this from history, in terms of history. But on the other hand, from myself as an individual, I don't hunt anymore. I don't fish anymore. I don't have any reason. I have no desire in my heart to harm another living being. That's just me. That's my opinion. And that's the way I see it. But
so just hang on a second, Val. Take a look at the screen if you can read it. Greg Olson says he's agreeing with you. He says, right. That's why I look at all the bear, wild dogs in the headlines, and then I look closely at the specifics of what the story is, of the story. And I tend to kind of agree with, because obviously I don't know, but yeah, there are a lot of, every time somebody gets hurt by a weird way, they're always blaming it on something else.
But the thing of it is, Doug, when you start looking at this stuff with a critical eye, a suspicious mind, me, the gumshoe guy, why is it that a lot of these incidents, these disappearances, these abductions occur around creeks and rivers? Why? Because creeks and rivers don't leave footprints, do they? And most of the time, creeks and rivers are in a defilade. In other words, an area lower than the surface ground around you. As a military man, a student of strategy, tactical strategy, I know for a fact, having served 2 tours, if I was going to attack or escape observation, I'd do it. I'd look for the nearest defilade, the valley, the creeks and the rivers. That's where you move, where you're not seen. And why is it that there's so many of these cases center around creeks and rivers? That's where the evidence is found. If you're going to find a body, that's where you're going to look. You're going to look there. You're going to look on the ridges, on the ridge tops.
So do you agree with me that I kind of believe they don't stray very far from water, these creatures?
Yeah, water is an essential part of life, isn't it? Food and water. And it's also a mode of traffic.
Transportation, I think, and cover. There's always tree cover around creeks and streams.
And then that brings me to swamps. Let's talk about swamps a minute.
Okay.
There's if you look at these, and I don't watch a lot of videos. I just simply don't have enough time in a day to sit and watch videos. I'm not a fan of watching videos. But if you look at these videos of alligator, crocodiles and stuff from Africa, where animals always go to water, don't they? They need to drink. And that's where the crocodiles are. And that's where they get them. They're hidden under surface. The prey comes to the surface and they gobble up their prey. They go to drink and they gobble them up. Now, a lot of people that go missing end up in the swamps. Why? Why is that? I don't believe in coincidences. There's no such thing as coincidences. The first time it happens, it's an anomaly. The second time it happens, it's happenstance. The third time that something happens, it's enemy action. There's no such thing as coincidence. Everything in this world, from the time that we were born, is purpose. We live in a purpose-driven world. Everything happens for a reason.
Chino Production said, she doesn't really feel an evil Bigfoot thing, and I agree with you. But what I always wonder if there isn't one aggressive creature that's been maybe abused by humans, shot at by a hunter, and they're just kind of rogue. They're rare. Just like most people are nice. 98% of people are awesome. They'll help you in a jam. They won't hurt you. They'll help you. They'll give you the shirt off their back. But there's a few out there. They aren't so nice.
Listen, my friend, I've seen, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every one of those things are evil. Every one of them, that every one of these things eat people. And some of them, I'm pretty certain they do.
There are legends of the Native Americans saying they're cannibals. So,
but there's also a few reports of Good Samaritan Sasquatch, and that's what makes this so dangerous because it's like a box of Cracker Jacks. You pull the prize out, you don't know what you get until you got it. It's a very puzzling thing, and the only thing that I would say, if I had any influence with law enforcement, investigators and stuff, and I would say look at this discipline as a possible discipline that's necessary going into the future. That's how I got into this. I started looking at paranormal kind of stuff, cults and occults early in my law enforcement career. And I was told by a professor, a PhD, a person that had been making the rounds across the country, that there's going to be a need for this kind of study into the future. This is, these were very smart people, and they're surely right. They need, people, law enforcement needs to step away from the rigors and the rigidity of institutional thinking, like like the old Sherlock Holmes thoughts of police principles and stuff, and get into modern times and look at the stuff. This is not normal stuff, man. It's not. It's different.
Okay, so let's put this in perspective. I wouldn't go to a remote cabin where the cabin's been attacked a ton of times if I thought they were dangerous. I just, I think, there's a chance if I walked out the door in the middle of the dark and startled one, maybe I'd get hurt. I don't know. But I don't know. But on the same token, the cautious person in me remembers certain stories, like where my son camped, where a man went missing. All they found is his wallet. Blaine and his girlfriend went there, camped exactly where he went missing. And what do you think happened that night? Their tent got attacked with rocks, rock throwing, growling, wood knocking. Something was agitated. They were there, right? Yet they walked away, but maybe this guy crawled out of his tent when they were throwing rocks near the tent. He might have crawled out, and creatures react out of fear too, just like dogs will get vicious because they're afraid. So there could be a lot of reasons, is what I'm saying. Why a Bigfoot might get mean and hurt you.
Do you recall?
Well, one thing too. They're smart animals. They've learned they don't need to get violent. They've learned that they can make us poop our pants and run away. Why get in a fist fight if you can scare somebody away? They're not dumb. They're not going to waste the energy and risk themselves getting in a fight when they know that they can just scare us away.
Intimidate. Yeah, they can just
exactly. But Sasquatch are so smart that they also know that the little man has guns. And
yeah.
They know what the guns do, and they know by history, by memory, by rote memory, they know that man will use those when they get a little bit of control and stuff. That's quite obvious just by their behavior and stuff. Do you recall me mentioning speaking with somebody and they mentioned Sasquatch reading you? What does that mean? I says, well, they're looking into your soul, your heart, to see what kind of person you are. What kind of individual, what kind of being does that? What capability do they have to look into my heart and to decide what kind of person I am?
That's too deep of a thought for me, Val. Sorry.
Well, it goes to...
You're a deep thinker, man.
It goes to your point about how somebody can go to a cabin where something terrible had happened in the past, and yet walk away unfettered,
right?
Unmolested and stuff. It could be, and I'm thinking about this incident that I believe it was in Alberta. It occurred because, again, I'm looking at all these things with 4 databases, my friend, 4 databases of research. I'm reminded of an incident that occurred out of Alberta where a female DNR, forestry service person was out by herself. There was a nasty poacher in the area, and he knew that this was a single pretty young woman and stuff, and this and that and all the other. Well, she also knew, and she had also been journaling what she believed to be Sasquatch behavior. She heard the vocalizations, she had those feelings, and she's writing this stuff down. She's journaling this stuff for her supervisors because she's remote and she's isolated. Help isn't a knock on the door. It takes days for her to fly in some help and stuff. Anyways, there's a nasty man, an evil man, a poacher that knows that this is a young, isolated, remote female out here in the middle of nowhere. And the woman says, the female forestry service says that somehow this man came to the door and she wasn't going to answer the door because she felt, she had those feelings. This is not good. I'm alone. I'm single. I'm a woman. I don't want to talk to this man. I don't want him close to me. He kept coming around. One night, she said that she heard some screaming and she didn't go out the door. But the next morning she went outside and this man was hanging upside down and Bigfoot tracks around. So somebody was watching, somebody sensed, Doug, again, those feelings. They're reading people. This is not a good person. And it goes to the point of
that's that's an interesting theory too, Val.
My suggestion that perhaps it's each an individual plays a role in this too, because if you're not a good person, and they have good intention, and they have good Samaritan acts in their heart, maybe they are looking out for people. Some people they see what is not good in people. I don't know. But I'm not, I wasn't that kind of person. I was allowed to leave unmolested.
Yep.
That's what I can say about that. And from my point of view, I hold a lot of respect for Sasquatch for that, because, I didn't want to be harmed by this thing.
No, exactly. Well, what do you think they are, Val? What are the possibilities in your mind?
Well, I'm gonna answer this question, and then I'm gonna wrap up my end of the show at some point here. But I'm gonna say this. That's a very good question, and I'm glad you asked me that, because I'm gonna tell you this. They're not human beings. People will argue and they'll turn blue in the face. So mad at mad at me when I say this, but I don't believe they're human beings. They're not human beings. People say, well, they're forest people. Well, they're not forest people. They're not human and they're not primate. They're an anomaly somewhere in between. And I can't explain it. I wasn't given the ability to solve that, that mystery. I'm not the one. But they're not human. A lot of these things that I've read about the DNA and stuff point to anomalies. Something, the female has the DNA has female. It's primarily female. But the problem with this is they don't know what the man is. They don't know what the father is. They don't know the DNA for the father. What does that tell you? I know this for a fact. Whatever they are, they're not angelic beings. Let that settle in. There's no angel that lurks in the darkness and scares people and growls at people, tears people to pieces, tears animals to pieces. There's no angel that does that. There's no angel that will throw things at you and stalk you. So we're a human being on this earth for a purpose. Whatever our purpose is, you know it better than I do. I know my purpose, and I'm here to learn lessons and share what I learned with people.
So why do you think Michigan is such a good area? I mean, what do you think? Let me word it this way: what do you think represents good Bigfoot habitat?
Well, I think that Minnesota, Wisconsin are the same as Michigan. The only difference is Michigan has me. There might be a couple people like me in Michigan. I don't know. But I don't think there's any me kind of people in Minnesota that I've seen. Anybody can do what I did. Anybody. But they have to put the time in. They have to read, study, and research. And it took a lot of time for me to do this. And I might add, I've written about this before, that research, there really is a lot of work in that. There's a lot of personal sacrifices that go into this. I went through 6 computers. So, you guys know, Doug, you must know this. I mean, you're involved in this stuff. You know what it takes. It's not cheap. It's a lot of aggravation, a lot of annoyances. I received physical threats over this stuff. Yeah, me. People want to harm me because of what I got, and they want it. This is like a bag of gold to some people. And it's just sometimes I look at this stuff and I ask myself, is it worth it? Is this really worth it? Why would people act like this? Why does Michigan have a lot of Bigfoot reports? Partially because somebody's looking. You know, myself, I'm looking at these things, I'm putting them together and showing people this is what I see here. But if you looked at Minnesota, if you really looked at Minnesota or Wisconsin, I'm sure that you'd find something comparable. Somewhere along the line, I sent one of you guys a graph, some type of line graph or something that was showing you from top to bottom, United States and Canada together. We're looking at the top 10 states or provinces of Canada, from the largest to the lowest in the top 10 group. Michigan is in there, probably the third or fourth area. Alaska, British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, California, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. The bigger question is, why is it that Ohio, Pennsylvania have a lot of there you go, right there. Why is it that Pennsylvania and Ohio have a lot of reports? So does Michigan. Those three states alone.
Yeah, but look how small Michigan is to, some of these
California.
other states. It's not a big state.
No. I think myself personally, on an intellectual side, I think that a lot of Bigfoot, Sasquatch live underground. They're subterranean by nature. And like ants, you can't tell me how many ants there are in the world.
Oh, it's the biggest biomass on Earth, no doubt.
I think one of the early Native Indians made a comment one time. This is a good subject, Doug, really, because when I'm talking about Sasquatch, I'm not sure that we're talking about prairie people either. The mound builders. You got a mix, an amalgamation of different things going on here in Michigan, as well as throughout the Midwest, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia. It goes on and on and on. This is historical. This is really historical. You've got Michigan, early chieftains and elderly people talking about Sasquatch, hairy faces in Michigan. You've got other chieftains talking about let's gather the forces. Let's create an alliance. Three of the largest, the major Indian forces, Native Indian forces of Michigan at the time, felt compelled to call forces together to create an alliance. Why? Because of what they seen as a threat, a natural threat by the prairie people, the giants, the big thing. Were they talking about Sasquatch? I don't know. But they definitely claim that these are very evil beings, that they stole their females, ate their food, eating the kids. They wanted to get rid of them, annihilate them. And that there were so many in Michigan. Michigan was so plentiful of these so-called prairie people that the elder said, this is his words, not mine, they were as plentiful as leaves on the trees. And if he said this in the 1800s or the 1700s, how many trees do you think existed in the 1700s as opposed to today? That's a lot of beings, a lot of threat. If they were plentiful as leaves on a tree.
So there's some questions. Marianne says, what does Val think about dogmen? It's a great question.
Marianne, hi, Marianne. I kind of separated myself from that because I really I'm not into that. I don't fully buy into that. I look at the old black and white movies. Remember the movies, the Wolfman and stuff? And I seen the picture. What to me, the old 1920s, 1940s, 50s Wolfman pictures, and that's Dogman, I guess. That's Wolfman. Reminds me of a Sasquatch. It doesn't matter that the movie rendition shows that Dogman with clothes, wearing clothes, because I know for a fact that Sasquatch wears clothes too. It's an anomaly. It's a crazy thing. This topic, to anybody that looks at it and spends any time in it, it's mind blowing. Some of the stuff that goes on and stuff.
So there's your question. He doesn't have any opinion.
All right. There's a couple people have asked. Greg asked it most recently. Where can people find your collection of stuff? I believe you have a Facebook group. Am I correct?
He's got a very active Facebook group.
Yes, I have a Facebook group. It's a group site. It's called Michigan Bigfoot Reports and Data. Gumshoe Guys Corner, semicolon Gumshoe Guys Corner.
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't post the reports like some group sites do because people take that and they market it, and I don't like that. If there was a way that I could post that without anybody marketing that stuff, my work and stuff, I would do it. But I haven't figured it out yet. So, but as far as the graphs and stuff go, if you go there, you'll see the graphs. I have a lot of information there of what I share and stuff. So, have fun with it.
Cool.
Yeah,
I liked your theory too. That this had never occurred to me about them traveling by rivers. That's an interesting thing. That's an interesting thought because it could explain a lot of strange things. That's it.
Well,
that had never occurred to me before until you brought that up. That's pretty interesting.
There's an author that wrote some books, and I love reading Jeff and Doug. I do. I love it. There's an author that wrote a ton of nonfiction books and stuff, and he talked about explorers someplace in Utah, and these guys were all interested in water, marine exploration, and they did oceanic studies and stuff, and they ended up in a cavern in Utah exploring it, and they wanted to see where these underground rivers ended, these tributaries, and they spent a lot of resources, a lot of money and stuff to do this exploration, and they found this underground tributary, and they followed it. They had the rafts and everything else, radios and stuff, and they ended up in the Gulf of Mexico from an underground water tributary. It went out that way. To put this in greater perspective, I am told, again, I read your disclaimer before the show. My opinion is not your opinion. It's my opinion. I am told that beneath the terra firma, Michigan, the ground that I stand on, that I sit on, there's vast rivers, wide enough for submarines to traverse up to the North Pole, underground. In fact, you'll find that under the United States as well. You'll find that under the oceans, the deep oceans and stuff. If you can imagine, if you can agree that does exist, why would it be hard for anybody to understand that Sasquatches survive and live in lava tunnels in Washington, the Pacific Northwest? some of which are flooded. And how would they not understand that if Sasquatch were to travel and navigate from point A to point B sight unseen, how would they do that? But for underground tributaries, swimming. We know for a fact that Sasquatch swim, and they're excellent swimmers, because commercial boats, commercial fishermen make Bigfoot reports too. They see them in Alaska. They see them in the Gulf of Mexico. That's fishermen. That's a long way for land anywhere you look at it, either from Gulf of Mexico or around Alaska. That's cold water. It's very deep waters. And it's just fascinating. The whole topic is very fascinating. So if I could tell you that there's at least 2,838 reports or 87 reports in Michigan, that in my mind is only a small portion of reports that actually go on.
Yeah. What proportion do you think actually get reported, Val?
Probably, I don't know. I'm just saying maybe 5%.
Good guess. Yeah, I think you're about right.
5%.
I figured between 1 and 10, somewhere between 1% and 5 and 10. So yeah, 5.
Doug, a lot of people won't report these.
No, I know.
They will not. They'll take them to the grave.
Yeah.
They won't report them.
You are right. And most sightings are probably uneventful. Most of them are road crossings, I would imagine.
What I found fascination with is looking at these reports, and one of the settings that I use. I got to add this. When I set up these databases, I set them up much the same manner that I used in investigations. When you're researching criminals and stuff, you have a database and you have data sets. Data sets represent a point of behavior that you're looking at. Everybody that looks at this stuff, anybody that analyzes this stuff, goes through the report, they look at it, and they take their pen and underline the key points that they're interested in. Everybody's different. I know what mine are. I know what words I look for, what terms I look for. And when I look at each of these hundreds of thousands of reports that I've been through, I'm looking for these red flag words, these terms. That's how I populate my database. And one of the 238 red flag terms that I isolate when I look at reports and stuff is frightened. People fear, and people are frightened and stuff, because what I see in this is that for children and adults both, there's a lot of similarities. Children to children, some of these experiences that they have as kids encountering Sasquatch and stuff is life altering a lot of times.
And they never get reported, children sightings.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree.
And they don't get believed by parents either.
And they suffer probably the most with some kind of post-traumatic stress syndrome.
I can't tell you how many times I've come across these reports of adults explaining, and it's kind of emotional reading this stuff, because these people are pouring their hearts out. They've carried this all through their life. They're on their deathbed. They're making that choice of sharing this before they pass on. And they talk about how much this has hurt them, but it's hurt them even more to hold it in and not share it with anybody. And it's really incredible. The whole thing, guys. 238 topics in the reference book database that I have. I'm talking about, and it starts alphabetically in order. There's assaults, there's abductions, There's breaking and enterings, forced entry. There's well, Sasquatches are considered master ventriloquists. They mimic, very, very masterful at mimicking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? What do you make of them like calling somebody's name? The husband calling the wife's name, and the husband's not home. Do you think they're trying to lure them out to get a look or to hurt them?
Well, I think by what I've read, again, this is what I'm looking at hundreds of thousands of reports, literally thousands, hundreds. I think, and I see this, and someday, if I come back here again, if you want to use that as a topic of discussion, I can bring them up and I can show you. It's one thing to sit here and talk about this stuff. It's another thing to show you examples. This is what people report. Yes, if I had a bad intention about somebody, what's a better way? What's a more wicked way to lure that person away from their family than to call their name in another person's body? That's demonic.
But they do it in their own voice. The real person's voice. They not only call the name, but they actually mimic. They can mimic a female. They can mimic anything.
That's demonic.
Scary.
Yeah, I said that. You didn't.
No.
The native elders, they said this. I don't need to say this. They said this. Sasquatch is a master ventriloquist. Sasquatches, talking about Sasquatches. I'm not talking about the guy next door. I'm talking about Sasquatches. Sasquatches have a profane sense, an obscene sense of humor. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that, and I can go down a list. I can sit here and tell you things, but to show you, it's one thing to tell you something. It's another thing to show you. When people report, campers report, excuse me, when campers report something urinated on them when they were sleeping, that's wrong. It might be funny. It sounds sophomoric and stuff, but these people are talking about they heard something urinating like a bull, like a horse, and it got all over them. They soaked them up while they're sleeping. They had no defense to this, but that's what Sasquatch does. They do it on them.
Teenagers are teenagers. Mm-hmm. There's Bigfoot teenagers too doing dumb stuff.
Exactly. They do that. They've taken excuse me, they've taken a hunter's jacket that the hunter comes home from hunting out in the field all day, and we know that Sasquatch and hunters don't always get along. They're out there vying for the same resources. Hunter comes home after a hard day's work. He hangs his coat up on the clothesline outside, air it out. He comes back out to use it, and it's all full of urine, stinking urine, Sasquatch urine. They came along and urinated on this thing. Another thing, people reported they have a history of Sasquatch annoyances around the house. Their dog, their vicious watchdog, chained up outside the back door. They come outside one day. They find their leash hanging in the tree, and the dog is gone. That vicious dog that watchdog that they had, it's gone. Another family reports a similar thing, but this event has to do with their cat. They found their cat strung and strangled outside the door for the homeowners to see when they walk outside the house. In another case, the homeowners, again, have a history of Sasquatch bothering them. They walk outside the back door, and the first thing that they step in is Sasquatch poop. right there on the doorstep, knowing full well that when a person steps out of the house, because somebody has been watching the people, they watch them step out of the house onto the steps, and the first thing that they step in is that. They have an obscene sense of humor. This is what early elder Native Americans had said about this, and they're accurate. They're true. You know, there's a case where a little boy went missing, never found again. The little boy was always very, very close to his dog. Dog was always with the little boy. Little boy goes missing, and somehow they found the dog. They never found the boy. They found the dog inside a sewer, inside, you know, these septic tank sewers, these cement encasings. You know, the old septic tanks that they used to implant in people's backyards in rural areas they used a machine to lift the top of that septic tank up with embedded iron. You know, it was embedded in the cement. It was so heavy. Something had the strength to put this little dog in that septic tank and put that heavy cement case back down on it. And for what reason? That's not funny. It's not, that's wrong. That kind of stuff is not right at all.
Did you ever hear the story, Val, of the pipes, the irrigation pipes that had this farmer finds holes punched in this pipe all around, like somebody had just taken their fist and punched through these big PVC pipes, and they figured out that whatever it was getting skunks out of this pipe.
I heard that.
You did, yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Crazy.
Now, what I've also learned was that, because I couldn't figure this out, why am I seeing a lot of photos of stacks of rocks and stuff, rock formations and stuff? Well, I learned that to a Sasquatch, rocks are like a attraction for rodents and stuff, snakes and rodents. In the summertime, snakes will look for the coolest, darkest area. And so these things have these little stations all around the place. So when they get hungry and they want a snack, they can't go to a party store and get something. They lift up these rocks, and sometimes they find some mice and moles and stuff like that, and that's what they eat. But
nature's
a lot of this stuff,
nachos.
some of these people, some of this is pretty interesting and stuff. But
gosh,
guys, listen, I had a great time talking to you.
Yeah, it was fun.
And
so if you want to go to his thing, go to the Facebook group, join up, Michigan Bigfoot Report and Data, Gumshoe Guys Corner, and there's a join button, you can join. And he's got there's a lot of members. It's a big site.
And I think you gained some fans. Looking at the chat here, you definitely gained some fans here.
Well, listen, guys, I know I'm boring. This is not Doug, and I want to thank you for being on your show and stuff. Really, it's quite interesting. I was watching some of the pre-show. Both of you guys, it's different. I like it.
We try to be different.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I before I failed to remember or mention it, if you go to Monsters on the Edge, episode 40, Val is on there with a whole bunch of other stories. And so check that out. If you want more of Val, go to Monsters on the Edge on the Untold Radio Network, episode 40. So it's very different than this show. So you'll get a whole nother kind of viewpoint of Val.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the whole thing is different, guys. I think your guests, your readers, your subscribers, and everybody watching and listening to stuff, You got
Oh,
a good,
man.
you got a
The
good
chat was-
following.
Our chat's awesome. They're spectacular. It's a great group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And this is not like some of these programs and stuff. I've seen a lot of chats from the different podcast groups and stuff. And yeah, you got a pretty good following. You got a lot of interaction and stuff there.
I think you'll gain a few new members.
Yeah, for sure.
For
Thank
sure.
you, guys. Listen, you guys have a safe,
thank
wonderful
you so
night.
much. Yeah, thank you
very much. Okay.
And by the way, our cold is heading your way. So
well, hope not. I heard you coughing. All right,
not
guys.
good. It's never. They say it's the coldest it's been for the longest stretch for like 150 years.
Bless you guys. Be safe.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Val.
Thanks,
Have a
Val.
good night.
Good night, Val.
Doug. Bye.
Who do we have up next week, Jeff? Do you know? Because
I can find. Give me a minute, and I can
Calls
find
is
out.
coming up. Calls coming up.
Let me look at my schedule
maybe
here. I'm
next
pulling
week.
it up.
I don't know. I don't remember.
I'm pulling it up. Alex's schedule. Alex is so organized. It's amazing.
He is. So
He's just
Dan
got great
goes-
organizational skills. Looks like next week, February 26th, is Carlos Jimenez.
Oh, yeah, he's amazing. This is a guy that studied under Grover Krantz.
Oh, wow.
Anthropology. And then he had a sighting.
Cool.
Now he has devoted his life basically to this mystery, just like Grover Krantz. And
Cool.
so you're gonna love this guy. He's amazing.
And then March 5th, we've got Carl Supp again. He was a great guest.
Oh yeah, Carl. Yeah. I can't wait to have Carl back on.
Great guest.
And I always make sure I watch the show we did with him so we don't cover the same ground. So we try to cover new ground.
Yeah.
Just like I didn't want to do the same stuff Barnaby did, the same questions, have the same show. So if you want a continuation of this show, go check out Barnaby's show.
I had a thought too. I was going to ask Val this, but he had to go. Something that he said, I'm still thinking about the water stuff, traveling by water. And it's one thing I always think about, we've talked about this before. Biology is practical. Animals, physical features exist for a reason.
Yeah.
And there's evolutionary pressure for whatever. So it just occurred to me while we were talking, that might be another explanation why Bigfoot has such this big barrel chest with giant lungs. If they're swimming a lot, you need big lungs.
Exactly. That's a good point, Jeff. No one's ever brought that up to me. Ever.
I mean, everything has to make, I think too, it's a big part of the reason why, it explains the vocalizations being so loud and powerful.
Yeah.
But there's a reason it's got that big, giant barrel chest. I mean, nature isn't random. I mean, that,
right.
So that could be a possible explanation, is that it needs that giant lung capacity because it's swimming. That's, my head's really going after he said that, because man, if they travel by river, that would explain a lack of footprints in a lot of areas. It would explain a lot.
That's really me and Jeff talk for hours.
Yeah.
At times. And we've got a real long one coming up here where it's going to be so long we're planning it. And we cover a lot of all sorts of ideas and concepts and things. And I'm going to bring that up to Jeff. That's really brilliant, Jeff.
Oh.
I don't think you realize how brilliant that is.
Oh,
the big barrel. Yeah, you're right. The big lungs. Maybe it's for swimming.
Sure. And that big chest would also give you powerful swimming motion too. You got those.
Absolutely. No, it's a great
lats,
thought.
I think. Everything has to have a reason. There's a reason it's built the way it's built.
You're right. You are right.
I mean, nature's practical.
There's
a
also
reason for it.
a reason their hair is very fine. A lot of people think it's coarse, but it's very fine. And, one of the ways is you can get more hairs per square inch if it's fine. And I would think more finer hair would dry off quicker. It would tend to bellow in the wind more. It would tend to snag less. There's a lot of things it would do.
Well,
But
and
the
fine
density-
downy hair tends to be more, what's the word, hydrophobic, right? Where it kind of, that finer downy hair.
You know something, Jeff? Okay, that's two brilliant things you said tonight.
I got my moments.
No one has ever thought of testing the how hydrophobic a Bigfoot hair is compared to a human hair.
Again, if it is, there's got to be a reason for it.
Did you take the genius pill tonight? That's
I'm
two
having a good-
things.
I'm having a good day, I guess.
That's a good day. What the hell, dude? I'm serious. You so seldom hear anything like hydrophobic hair. But what I'm good at is going ding, ding, ding. We need to test that
Yeah.
because that's easy to test specific gravity, to test how well it resists water. Because me and Yvette on Highway 169, we were driving south and we saw what we thought was a moose up ahead waving its antlers, doing this thing with its antlers. And as we get closer in the headlights, we can see it ain't a moose. And what we thought were antlers were arms, and it was waving its arms like in a hula hoop fashion, and it was drying off. And its hair did look pretty dry, and it was just beautifully clean. And you could just see this long hair hanging off under the arms. We could see the fingers. We could see the shoulders. Of course, it had its back to us. We didn't get to see the face. And Yvette stated it was like the size of an elephant. I mean, this was a big bad boy. And it looked like it had just taken a swim because on the GPS, there was a stream that emptied out of a state forest, emptied into Mille Lacs Lake. So geographically, where we saw it made sense. It was a waterway that went from the forest into the lake, a tributary into Mille Lacs. So there again, did it swim to where it was? Whatever. It was a hot night, and I think it wanted to get out of the damn forest.
Sure.
Take a swim, just like you would. I mean, that'd be the first thing I'd want to do.
Yeah.
If I was all hot and sweaty to go for a quick swim.
Up in the river.
So yeah, they do call them the water apes.
Steamboat just had an interesting comment here.
I gotta look at all these great comments.
That could explain the oily skin too.
Geez, okay, Jeff, you're 3 for 3 now.
Steamboat brought that up.
Yeah,
I'll pull his comment up here.
Hold
So
on.
Steamboat said that, but that would also be an explanation for the reports of the thick
And the Alba Vernix and all that. Maybe it's for
thick
water.
sebum and all that kind of
Maybe
stuff.
it's
That
for
makes sense.
water. Maybe it's for waterproofing.
It totally makes sense.
Obviously, that stuff is good for gripping, right? It would
Mhm.
help if you have like greasy skin. It's really good for gripping. But I love the fact it may keep the hair dry, the hydrophobic, the blob. Oh my God, Jeff.
Well, that's a big
And
part of the
steamboat,
reason
that's great.
dermal. And again, Dr. Meldon would probably have a good opinion on this. Water is a big reason why dermal ridges exist. It helps you, those dermal ridges. It's also why your skin gets pruny when you're in the water. When your skin prunes up, people don't understand this.
Right.
The reason your skin prunes up in water is because it increases your gripping ability in water. That's why your skin does that.
It increases.
Yeah. So when your skin gets all pruny, when your
And
skin's
the
wet,
oil just dissipates.
that's why it does that. Is
So
you
it
can get
makes
more.
up for the oil.
So that's part of the reason why dermal ridges exist on your hands and feet, is to give you better traction in water.
And yes, contact me and I'll give you an address that you can send it. I'd love to see it. But generally, if you can vet it, look at it with a microscope, it should have a tapered end. It should be somewhat light colored because of the lack of medulla or medulla, depending on how you want to pronounce it, of the pigmented core. So they generally look kind of lighter colored as an individual hair. So it's never been cut. And generally, it's a very flexible. Wispy is a great word to use, almost like a 2-year-old's hair. My granddaughter was over today. She's got Sasquatch, soft, beautiful, this
He's so
kind of
cute.
little wavy
She's such a cute little
hair.
kid.
But that's how Bigfoot's hair is, except it's longer. Many cases, 6 inches, 5 inches, a little wavy too. There's a little bit of a wave to it. I just see it so many times, the good stuff. It doesn't mean that every hair is like that.
I always get it mixed up. Now, so the Bigfoot hair does not have a medulla. It does not have the air inside of it, correct?
It doesn't.
That would also make sense for aquatic. That would also make sense.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
An aquatic animal.
Okay, what other animal is very aquatic and has hollow hair? A polar bear.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, like that. It all. Like I said, everything fits together. It's a piece of the puzzle.
Cool, because we're going to be testing here for the porphyrins. Obviously for DNA, but now we can test the how hydroscopic it is, hydrophobic. Hydrophobic it is, and we can test. We should really be examining it for these skin oils also on the hair.
If it's hydrophobic, that's a huge tell.
It's a huge tell. Well,
there's got to be a reason for
compared to a human hair, right?
Right.
If one is more hydrophobic because it's either hollow, the whole thing is. Oh, the other thing too, that hollow hair would act as a flotation.
Sure, absolutely.
I would think it makes you more weightless, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to struggle less. You can swim farther.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get tired trying to keep. Most humans they struggle to kind of stay afloat. But a Bigfoot with hollow hair. So these are all great things that kind of came out of tonight's show.
Yeah.
And
there's still people watching us. The guest is gone, and just the
idea.
two of us. It's just the two of us shooting the stuff, and there's people still watching. That's awesome. Hi, everybody.
Okay, so Greg says sea otters have the most hair per square inch. I didn't know that, Greg. I had no idea. That's fascinating. I think Bigfoots have the same, similar density in their hair. It also would keep them warm. So it would do a lot of things, but that's really interesting. So there's a great crowd tonight.
Absolutely. Always.
Catherine says all animals need water. Makes sense. It'd be good hunting, traveling. Yes, everything. I mean, it would sticking to the waterways just makes so much sense.
It makes a ton of sense. And if they live in really thick wooded areas, it's an easier way to travel.
85% of sightings are within 100 yards of water.
Yeah. Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I love it.
I just wish there was some really rich scientists in this chat tonight that went, whoa, I can get a grant, and he could get a grant and start going off on all this stuff, but it's not going to happen. Didn't happen. We just have a lot of citizen scientists in here. But thank you, Jeff. I'm like really stoked about that now. I'm thinking, oh, geez.
Oh, good. I'm glad I could.
Let you meet science. I know people are kind of getting on me once in a while, like, when's it going to be done? And I keep telling them the longer you wait, the better it's going to be. There's going to be.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be overwhelming good.
We had new ideas
because there's new evidence coming to me, new ideas, new things. And I knew when I started this project, it's just going to be huge, and I will just deliver more parts. So yeah, we might release part 1 earlier, which I could do now. I mean, I have plenty for part 1, probably even part 2, but part 3 is the big one.
Mm-hmm.
We need, answers on many of these things, and I'm waiting.
I'm excited for it, man. It's gonna be great.
So it says, send you analysis. Of course, oily skin must repel water. Yep, that's great. Pizza makes Jeff smart. Yes, by Brendan. We already knew that, Brendan. To me, when I eat pizza, I get dumb.
Hold on a second. Shout out to Brendan. It's his eighth wedding anniversary.
Oh wow!
I was actually best man in his wedding, but he just had his 8th wedding.
So you only have 2 more years to go before you're divorced. I'm joking.
He's a great gal too. He really found a great woman.
Well, I know she lets him go up north to his cabin.
She's been up there too. She's just a great gal.
Oh, that's nice.
We got a good relationship.
So Steamboat says their hair is so beautiful, and the patty type. That's beautiful. Yeah, I agree. The one we saw in the headlights of my car was absolutely amazing, and especially to see this breeze blowing its hair as it did this hula thing to dry off. It was so weird.
Well, Val compared it to the Afghan dog. I mean, they got beautiful hair.
Okay, now Kenny goes, here's another brilliant mind. Kenny goes, maybe the conical shaped head is for the more aerodynamic, you know what I mean, in the water.
Yeah.
like a mermaid.
Well, I've seen, if you've seen the skull, I think the reason for it is they need those big muscles to attach up there because they got just that massive, strong jaw. Your jaw muscles, they attach. That's what
it'd be good for chewing.
The sagittal crest is for.
But some things do double duty.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it could be more than one thing, but yeah, that's why the skull has that big sagittal crest, is because there's muscles mounted on the side there because it's got that massive, heavy jaw. That's why it does that.
Why does Mike Prine say account restricted? What do you mean, Mike?
Well, he's commenting via Facebook, which I don't normally see Facebook comments on here. Is that I don't either.
Who knows? You could explain, Mike. We're waiting. We're doing like this little informal wrap up here.
Sure, why not?
Yeah,
if we get people watching, why not?
I've had such a long, crazy day. I just keep it going.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I spent most afternoon talking to Grok 3. Man, is that cool. That is something else. It is so...
Okay, Jeff, just stop. We'll do it live.
All right.
We'll do it
I'm
live.
just saying. I won't go into detail, but it's cool.
I have an idea what we're going to do.
Good.
So you arrange it so it can be shared, the audio and everything, and then you tell me when, and we can even do a bonus show.
Sure.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
And we can have our audience kind of interact, and they can ask questions, and we'll do this really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I just gave one, Caillou, on the Legend Meets Science. Rewind the damn tape, and you'll be able to hear the update.
I'll pop that up just so everybody knows what we're talking about.
Obviously, Caillou, you just pumped in.
We just talked about that.
Oh, thanks, Tristan. Go ahead and just rewind it, and you'll get an update. All right, we're going to go. Good night, everybody. I'm not doing any wisdom tonight. My wisdom is don't eat too much pizza, and that's it. Okay.
That's terrible wisdom. Eat more pizza.
Eat more pizza. Okay, that's my wisdom. Eat more pizza, people. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, we love you all, and thank you so much, Jeff.
Yeah.
And we will talk to everybody next week.
All right. Good night, everybody.
I call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm feeling just fine.